You're listening to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast, your source of music news, stories, and 2-hour deep dive interviews with bands that have sold over 150 million albums. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Now let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are joined by a very special guest. He's achieved a level of mastery as the guitarist and backing vocalist for the multi-platinum selling band Ugly Kid Joe. He's also produced some iconic albums for Evanescence, Slipknot, Mudvayne, and Godsmack. So welcome to the podcast, Dave Fortman. Dave, how are you? And is it true that growing up you were obsessed with skateboarding?
It was my super passion, man, as a kid. It was really that. It's the only other thing I did besides play music was skate. I have pictures of where, doing the handstands on the old Logan Earth board. I have a bunch of different old tricks that people forgot, like the Daffy, where you have two boards, and you do that with them and you ride around like that. My mom took pictures of all that stuff. In the old days, two people would get sort of face to face, and I mean, we're like 11 years old. So it's me and my buddy Rodney, right? And you put your feet on his board, his feet on your board, you kind of lock shoulders and go riding down a hill like that. It's insane. The amount of wipeouts, I don't know how I survived it. But then I moved into the era after the 70s. I was bull riding and stuff in New Orleans. My mom would bring me to what was called Zoom City in Metairie, and the time, I mean, just the greatest times, I think, probably of my entire childhood were literally those weekends when she would just go sit there and let me and my brother skate, and sometimes just me. And it's a concrete park, and you go down these fucking things into this bowl, and then back then it was just, even the technology was weird. They thought that Fiberflex would give you more bounce which is physics disagrees with that. But yeah, I was so into it, and what a time in my life. Then I moved into the bigger boards in the 80s and then started getting into rail slides and tricks. And I never got that far as in the new world of skating is concerned. Like I got to right where I could almost do a kickflip, and then I had to quit. I had a kid, and I started to still skate in Santa Barbara in my 30s. Like when I was like, I don't know, how old was I? I was like 30, 31. And finally ran into the ultimate luck out situation where I crashed. I was at a skate park with my buddy Brett Hammond, and like an idiot, I'd gone up. There's this big wave, you go up first before you hit the park. And I got up there and somehow lost my footing. Couldn't get around backwards. You're supposed to drop down to your knee pads, obviously, and slide out of them on something like that. It's basically a big vert wall. Didn't happen. So I went all the way to the floor about, I don't know, it's probably about 12 feet up or something like that, all the way to the floor, flat on my back. And so, calculations say a few inches here or there, it's a broken neck or broken leg. But I hit so flat like a pancake from the angle that it didn't hurt me at all. It was such a loud noise, though. The entire park just went silent, and everybody was just crowded around me thinking I was dead. So that was the end of my skateboard career.
I'm impressed that you were wearing knee pads to start with. A lot of skateboarders are too cool for that.
Yeah, when they get into in parks like that where people are doing vert, a lot of them that aren't, if you're not like pro people, you have to even Elliot Sloan, those guys, I believe that's his name. Elliot Sloan was one of the big air guys. Well, yeah, when you learn, especially in half pipe, you got to be able to slide out of your mistakes. All of them do. I mean, and so that's really the reason you're wearing knee pads in the first place, is because when you mess up, you don't catch. In other words, you try to go catch your knees without something to slide. That's why there's plastic on the front of them. You can actually slide out of it. Instead of you lose the board, well, then you can slide on your knees to get out of the vert part of the ramp. And so, yeah. That part's important. A lot of guys are helmetless and all kind of shit in the park now. When they get to that level, they just stop. They just drop the pads. They never wreck. It's similar. Then I got snowboarded out for years too. Same sort of thing happened. I was really going ape shit snowboarding. Started we like Ugly Kid. We all got into snowboarding, Ugly Kid Joe, right? And so then we did like a snowboard tour, 1996, where we just played ski resorts and snowboarded basically. And so then I really got active with it, like every weekend we were going. Then I started jumping, which is really bad idea. And then that fateful day happened. Me and Klaus and this guy Stefan Stracci, I believe, were at Mountain High, California, and I came in trying to do a backside 180 and got cut off by a skier about 15 feet before the ramp. And if you do the math on it, if I'm going backwards, I can't correct. If I was going straight, no big deal. But if you mess up a line by, let's say, 6 inches, 15 feet before a ramp, well, it's just like taking a tape measure and run it all the way down to where you're going to really go. And it's off to the left in the woods is where I went. And so I just took it with my shoulder. And of course, this shoulder, but I cracked it into like 5 pieces on my clavicle. And off I go on a stretcher and the whole deal.
Has that fully healed up to today, or do you still feel that?
It's not normal. It's like my bones like that. Basically, it's a big hump on my shoulder, like an idiot. But so and of course, that was around not very far apart from when I had wiped out in the park in Ventura, like a dumbass. And so it was all right when I was having a kid at the time. So it was just like, all right, I'm done. That's it. And, of course, I continue to ride, I just quit jumping. I mean, I continued to snowboard until just a few years ago. I still do when I get a shot at it. And I'm pretty stupid, but I don't wipe out. I can do a lot of flat tricks still without wiping out. This is all probably sounds pretty Chinese to people that don't ride, but for you riders out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Buttering and flat tricking and hauling ass and all that shit. I don't go in the park though. Snowboard.
I used to skateboard hours a day from when I was 10 to about 18. That was, the highlight of my life. You would meet so many people out there. It would be hot. And at some point you'd go in, you could afford a 30-cent freezy at the grocery store. It was amazing.
It is such a great friend thing when you have a gang of people and you go skating. And, one of the funnest skateboard times actually was me, Pepper Keenan from Corrosion of Conformity, right? Pepper. Well, me and Pepper and this guy, Jay Sturdivant, drove all the way to Houston. They were having a skate contest, a half pipe contest. It was a Cliff Burton Memorial skate exhibition or contest. And we drove all the way out there to meet up with a buddy of ours, Patrick Murphy. But outside of going and hanging out and watching this skate expo, we went and skated downtown Houston with a gang of people, and we were skating parking garages. Oh, it was so fun. It might be one of the funnest skate nights of my life. But just physically too, it's good for you. It's dangerous as hell, yeah. But if you practice and don't try too much stupid stuff. But you look about the age where you could actually do a kickflip, right? I mean, did you get that far in?
I could for sure still do most of the tricks.
No
I haven't skateboarded in like 15 years, but for sure, I feel like it's like riding a bike for me. You give me a skateboard right now, I could for sure, I could impress with a few tricks.
It's pretty wild. Yeah, that my generation, I knew a few that were, but it's like everybody your age. That's what you learn, like when you first come up. When I first came up, I mean, 11 or 12 years old, there was none of that shit was invented yet.
We also had the boom of the whole Tony Hawk video game series that made everyone want to skateboard again, right? It became mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So everybody's into it at that point, Yeah, I was really happy to see the popularity of it blow up. And for the great success of Tony, I followed Tony. He was exactly my age when I was a kid. These are like my heroes. That was partly before music drew me to want to go from Louisiana to California. It was actually skateboarding because all the magazines from the skate shop, posters, everything that I would follow. It was all, I was like, oh man, this is where I want to be. It was my dream was to get out there and skate is what I thought. But to see how big it got into the really I believe a multi-billion-dollar industry. I'm pretty sure now. From the downtimes, you know what I mean? It lost popularity for a while. I think it was a dip after the 70s, came back in the 80s a little. But then, wow, oh my God, like, you know, with Tony and Birdhouse. And then, the most fascinating of them all is Rob Dyrdek. You know, that is just an incredible story. I was one of the people that had been just salivating, waiting to buy the DC video that was coming out that had Danny Way on the first Big Era, right? And I bought the VHS of that damn thing. I don't know, maybe it was DVD. I forget what year it was, and that's the first place that anyone had ever seen Rob, because he was featured as a skater in DC, and that's the first place where Big Black, Rob and Big came from, right? You know this story? No, that's how the whole thing for Rob Dyrdek started, from that skate video. He had hired this comedian, Big Black, this giant big dude from the show Rob and Big, right, to come act like a bodyguard on the DC video when he was skateboarding. So they basically had him being like a skit. And so then the show was born, Rob and Big, from the DC video. And so the first time I ever saw Rob was in that video. He was a skater I didn't really know that much about. And then they featured him in that DC video with Danny Way. And I was like, God, this guy's really good. Little did I know he would go on to be the most successful skateboarder in history, in business. You know, he's just an icon. I mean, I still, instead of like when I was a kid watching cartoons on Saturday mornings, now it's like we put on ridiculousness on Saturday morning and Sunday morning to feel like it's the weekend. All right, so this is what we're doing. And then during the week, I get up and gets coffee, and I got to watch sports news because I'm that guy, apparently. See that guy? See? I wish you.
The empire that guy's built is pretty insane. And same thing with Tony Hawk. You just unlocked a couple memories. Every Christmas under the stocking, we would get a magazine. And for me, every year it was either skateboarding or snowboarding under the stocking. And then there's one time I was in an airport and I'm walking, and just in the background, I hear talking, and there's one voice that is so familiar. And I'm saying, how do I know this voice randomly in the airport? I turn around and there's Tony Hawk sitting down in the corner on the phone. Oh, and just from being a skateboarding fan, I knew that voice. Yeah,
you recognize.
You know, he's on the phone, so I didn't stop. I didn't say anything, but I had that moment of Tony Hawk being in the room.
Rad. Golly. Yeah, what a champion, man. Oh, this guy. I've always thought, since Rob and Big, that Rob was one of the funniest people on the planet. He's just naturally my kind of humor. You know, I think most of the skate world really loved his humor early on. You know, and certainly after and you know what I just was reading was because I was going to actually do a reel. I may still do a reel on it about the two, the most successful skateboarders in history. Rob being number one, so I did a little research on it, and I didn't know the amount of work they put in and how many episodes. There were some days where they were shooting 12 of those ridiculous episodes in one fucking day.
Jeez.
Like they're mowing through them. Like, I mean, it's of course been canceled or whatever, not canceled, but like it's over. You know, they've not renewed the contracts on it, I believe. But the amount of episodes that were squeezed in and how much work those people were doing, it's unreal when you look at the numbers. So it's a fascinating Google for whoever's watching. If you're a Rob Dyrdek fan, whew.
I wasn't familiar with how successful he was with those ventures. I remember looking at one point, and his net worth was something staggering. It was like 40 million or 100 million. It was like he built an empire.
Yeah, no, it's way more than that. I believe it's something insane. I think Tony's somewhere around 200 million and Rob's like 3 or 4 or something like that.
I remember the number just being completely shocking.
Yeah, and Rob gives away a lot of information on his business life, which it's the part of it we don't really see. It actually has nothing to do with skateboarding. When he was on, if you watch, Steve Vo has a podcast where he's interviewing Rob, and not only do they go over old school stuff about skate contest in Tampa and stories about all those things, but Rob gets into what he's been doing from the beginning, is getting involved on the business side of everything he's ever done. You know, when he signed with DC, he got a percentage of the company. And he did that, kind of parlayed that through his entire career, and then got to a point where he builds businesses. He said, I believe I'm pretty sure I'm quoting this correctly in numbers, but it like buys them. No, sorry, builds a business for like 50 million and sells them for 150 million. And so they keep doing that. And then he finds great ideas, and he pretty much, it's like a venture capitalist where he's investing in a company, building it out, and then selling that company. And he keeps doing that. And so, I mean, the amount of money that can cause is incredible, especially now. This concept blew me away, dude, on the Steve-O podcast of what Rob did. Check this out, because you're a YouTuber, right? So when they made Ridiculousness, they also get they get the views and publishing, from whatever you call that. They get the streaming rights to all the videos they use. So not only is he being paid on the network for the views coming in from television, but he's also being paid when those views go up on the videos he uses. He takes over the rights to those videos, as if he, in other words, they own the company, whatever it is he's using for Ridiculousness, owns the rights to all the videos being used. And so the spin, like the streams that are happening, it's
like legal double dipping because he just owns it.
Yeah, it's insane, dude. That when he said that on when I saw that on, I think it was on Steve-O, and also Chanel West Coast was also interviewed. It was on either one of those podcasts where Steve-O brought that up, and my mind was like, it's like, holy shit, what an idea, man. I mean, that's genius. It really is. Because you're not only are you getting the rights to these YouTube videos, but you're also promoting them on one of the number one show on MTV. And so they get more views, obviously, over on YouTube, which is also bringing you streaming money, which is fucking nuts, dude.
I think maybe the most impressive thing is when they tell you to try to figure out a way to monetize your passions, and you look at something like skateboarding that seems like it would be insanely hard to monetize, to see someone go from that beginning to becoming insanely wealthy. I think that's the most impressive thing for me. So we're going to do a full 2-hour deep dive interview here. We're going to cover your life, your career, your discography. There's so much to get to between you as a musician with Ugly Kid Joe and then all the amazing production work you've done since then. I want to get started all the way back at the beginning. Where does this love of music come from? Is there maybe an earliest musical memory that jumps out to you?
Yeah, sure. My family's musical. My dad played trumpet. I have two older brothers. So early on, my oldest brother had already started playing drums, and both of them, I believe, at the time. But I remember my oldest brother, I'm pretty sure it was him and not Brent. It's Brent and John. John's the oldest. Had taught me. I remember sitting there reading 4/4 time on drum music, like early. I mean, we lived on that in Columbus, Mississippi, and on this house, I believe it was on College Street. I remember exactly what it looked like in the room. I'm beating on a pillow and reading a sheet of music. And I couldn't have been more, I believe, at that house. I had to be 6, 7 years old, that early. I was reading drum music. Then that goes into middle school, where I go to play, I'm snare drum playing, and all of a sudden I come back in the middle of the year and start playing trumpet. And the music teacher's like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm going to play trumpet. And she's like, huh? And I start killing it. And so all of us were trumpet players. We all play drums. We all play piano. We're multi-instrumentalists. So early as I can remember, basically, it's not just been that we were listening to music. It was that we actually were playing music, because I had older brothers that were already playing. And so that just led me in each step of the way. It got more musical. I got in band, and I started following my brother's footsteps. They were also trumpet players. We were like first chair trumpets, and my middle brother went on to be drum major. So did I in junior high. And then where they went through high school band, I did not. So I found metal. I found the guitar, bro. And I didn't want to do it. I wasn't feeling band in high school. I was more like wanted to play guitar. And so that's how that led from early childhood into like high school. And from there, me and these other two guys, John McNeely, John McCallie, put together a high school band. Because I think they were putting one together. I don't know how I ended up going over there and playing with them. It just kind of spreads around that, this guy can play Eruption or whatever I was doing back then. And so I did, and then we started jamming, and I was like this timid, really shy, like old dude, but I could shred. And so there would be like parties we'd play at, and that started to become more and more and more popular. Then we started getting better and better and better at it. Then we started writing some songs, and then it got really, really popular. By the time I was a senior in high school, we were playing like bars and shit. I think there was times when I was playing, I was underage, and then they just snuck me in there or whatever, a couple of places. And then that got really steaming after high school that summer. And then we started to really play and spread out more into New Orleans. That went on for like 7 years. And then we had really got to a boiling point and had like a manager and everything. And I remember this guy from EMI Records had come down to New Orleans and wanted to see us and play a gig. And he kind of liked it. He wasn't really feeling it that much. So, we were, you have a confidence level when you're young that is most of the time unrealistic. So it was like in my mind, like, oh, for sure he's going to sign us, And then it doesn't happen. And then you get that beat down feeling. And I'm just like, I'm moving to LA, And I started talking to one of my best friends, Kevin Brown. And I was like, he had already moved out there. As I'm talking to him, and he's like laying out by the pool. He's like, dude, it's best ever out here. And I'm like, man, I'm going to go. And so then the other guys in the band were like, let's just all go. And we did. And we started rolling out there.
And this was SX?
SX, yeah. SX was the band from Covington. And then we got in the car, man. We had like, I remember John McNeely, I believe his dad, or maybe John saved up. But we were like, we're able to set up an apartment, right? Me and John. And we had, when I got out there, drove out there, me and the drummer drove out, I think the drummer's girlfriend had I forget what happened with LaCali, but I got in the car, and when I got there, I had exactly like 30 days to come up with rent money. So it was like job hunt, which I did, ended up getting, all these different jobs, all these weird jobs I had in LA to try to make that first rent check. And so then the whole time, we were booking like little gigs here and there. Coconut Teaser, I think it was one of them, or FM Station. Everybody starts there, in the Valley in the old days. And then that led to me reuniting with another friend of mine that played in a band called the Phantoms. He had moved to LA before me, Tim Gruss, and he was in a band called She Died. And so, strange fate where we moved to Sherman Oaks, California, because it was the area where I had like an uncle, or I forget, it was my aunt's son. I don't know, whatever it'd be, uncle or second cousin, whatever he would actually be, that owned a copper company or something out there. So it was a chance that I could get a job right there. So we moved to that area for that reason, right? And so we ended up like on, I think, Magnolia Street in Sepulveda. And Tim had always said, when he told me, but when you get out here, you just give me a call. And so I call him, and he literally lives like right down the street, like
your neighbors.
Away. Like, how the fuck in a city this big, how the hell did this actually happen? And it did. So I would sometimes go see Timmy and then play. And so one day, man, this is how the transition first happened out of SX, right, into the next thing. So then one day, Tim had called me, and he said that they had gotten rid of a guitar player and their drummer, and they had this dude from Wasted Youth. It was Joey Castillo, the famous drummer, Queens and Danzig, and now playing with Circle Jerks. So they got him, and then Tim said, can you come in and fill in too? We just want to jam. And so then we got to this rehearsal space, and me and Joey had never even met. We never even played with this band. So we just started jamming with each other. And I remember him coming to me and saying, man, because he was at the time, probably, whatever, I guess I'll be honest on the podcast. Yeah, he actually, both of us were kind of like, we're not really into the band, because the singer at the time, I love him to death, but he's not that great of a singer. So I remember Joey pulling me up for a side and saying, I'm not really that into the band, but man, I want to jam with you, man. And I was like, me too. I want to jam with you. Holy shit. Let's go play out, man. We just wanted to go. I couldn't get enough of playing with him. He's so good. And he really liked what I was doing. And so all of a sudden there was this new band born called She Died. And then eventually that band got rid of the singer and got this guy, Mark Hutner, who's fantastic. Well, that led then to the showcases, the Hollywood, the whole spiel, man, everything going down, $500,000 record deal on the table with Geffen. Before I knew it, it was like, oh my God. And so during that entire time, I had been hanging out with Ugly Kid Joe, because before we had gotten rid of the first singer for She Died, that became Sugartooth, the band, right? Before we got rid of him, we had a lawyer, it was Dennis Ryder, right? He was also Ugly Kid Joe's manager. So there was this dinner one night at his house, and it was everybody from She Died and two guys from Ugly Kid Joe, which was Whit and Klaus. And so we start hitting it off. And after dinner, I'm like, I'm going to party with you guys. And so I went out and partied with these dudes and had the greatest time. And we just became really good friends. And that went on for, I don't know, man, like, I want to say, well, we can see 90. Yeah, it was like a year, maybe even more, that I knew them. And they were coming to see me play during the process of us getting signed. I would go to Isla Vista and hang out with them. And I saw them play at a kegger one time. And they were going through the process of making their record. They had gotten signed. It was such an exciting time for me. It was incredible because I was seeing all these things actually happening that I dreamed of. Like these guys actually got a deal. I'm getting a deal with Geffen. And then Whit started bringing up the idea of me joining Ugly Kid Joe. And that slowly but surely kind of just kept pushing in that direction. And so then I did. It's just like, they're taking off at this point. They had already started to sell some records, and the video, I think, hit MTV. I think I was home like that Christmas or whatever, and I was showing everybody, these are my friends, man. And that opportunity was right there, and I felt like, I love these guys to death. They become really great friends of mine. So, it was just like I could be like on national media in a few weeks. So I went in, I quit, and then went in. And everybody was cool with it, and Sugartooth. And I went in the studio, and we made America's Least Wanted, and that's how that really got started in Ugly Kid. And we went and toured our balls off for like in 2 years, something like that, or more than that. I mean, overall, but that first run was like, we started touring with Ozzy, and then we just kept fucking going all over the world. It's great.
When you mentioned Joey Castillo on drums for Queens, that's Queens of the Stone Age, right? That he was with for a decade.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he's just a beast, man. I don't know if you really studied him, but it's incredible. Especially now, he's playing the fastest punk rock beats. God, it's so incredibly hard looking to play, but he does it effortlessly. It's impressive. And he's such a powerful drummer. And he played with Zach Sabbath too, or yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, well, Joey played with Zach for a while too. Probably still does. I really don't know the current status of it, but a monster.
Did you have to audition for Ugly Kid Joe, or once they said, "Oh, you should come play with us," it was like the gig is yours?
Whit. I mean, I thought I was already in the band all the way, right? I'd already quit my band, and then we're like riding to LA or doing something. What were we doing? Or going to pre-pro or something? And Klaus is like, yeah, if it all works out. I'm thinking, wait, what? I'm not in the fucking band officially. Klaus was window shopping me still. But then once we started jamming in pre-pro for that record, then everybody loved it, Klaus did too. Klaus just wanted to make sure it was the right kind of fit. I'm assuming, I don't know. But Whit was like, yeah, dude, you're in the band. So I went and quit Sugartooth, and I was like, oh my God, man. Crazy. What if Klaus doesn't like it?
It's hard for a band to sound unique with the amount of music that is produced globally. Somehow Ugly Kid Joe had this unique sound between the personality, the humor, the attitude, the band name, the song titles, the album titles. Was that a decision right from the start to I feel like that's the band's superpower, was its ability to stand out.
Yeah, I tell you one thing about this band is they're this band 100% from day one has been like no thought going. It's a pretty natural situation. I mean, all of us. I mean, even in the very beginning, I mean, they're just rolling with like whatever is happening. Really, it's truly like a really, for me at least. I'm from Louisiana, but these are like real Californians, man. I've loved them from day one for that. They're just my favorite people in the world. With us are, and it's just it's a real deal. There's no like they're not trying. They weren't in the beginning either, just trying to do anything other than have a good time and play their music that Klaus had written, uh, and then later with the co-writes and things. And it's been that way. Never did they sit down and make any kind of conscious decision to try to be some sort of style or whatever. They're just going. They're And look at like your age group, man, actually got it. That's more of our fan base was really the younger fan. We had a lot more people that were into us that were in the younger ages, which I think is responsible for us being able to come back in 2012. It's that those people now became like our regular audience, which is, I believe, demographics are, older but good, in the late 30s to mid 40s kind of things, our main band of people, which is great. And that means that would have been honestly the teenagers back when we were 25. Then we'd be looking at 17, 18-year-old people, and that was it's a lot of people's demographic, but certainly it was for us. So it's good. And look, we got a lot of hate. Like it's kind of cool that a lot of that's blown over. Because of the demographic growing into, basically our fan base now. But yeah, it was a little furry, man. We were kind of the pimple on grunge early. And so I don't, look, you can't really blame them. If you go back and listen, I mean, stylistically, the band has reflections of what would be considered glam metal, right? There's no way out of it. I mean, there was a lot of bands like that. I mean, like, I don't know if you ever heard of the Electric Love Hogs. It's like funk metal was happening right in Los Angeles back then, and somehow most of it got killed off, and UKJ survived somehow to last well into like when Green Day showed up and then punk hit, which is remarkable. But we definitely were hated by a lot of people because we were kind of keeping the metal torch alive in a way, and not like really like, I'll just say it. Look, there's enough glam metal inflections and things in the sounds of what we were doing, especially on America's Least Wanted, to warrant some hate from the other side. I fucking get it, and I'm willing to admit it. And I don't think anybody can deny that. It's not really an opinion. You could just put the album on and clearly hear that. There's no getting around it. I mean, it's not bad. Certainly not now. It's great because that music has made a resurgence. But back then, yeah, it was a sin. It was horrible. Like, grunge people fucking it. Like all those grunge bands hated us, man. Just the way it went.
Do you think it's also because the band wasn't taking itself that seriously that for some reason maybe critics are like, well, if they don't take themselves that seriously, we won't take them seriously either?
No, it's stylistic, man. The like people could see the part of the California side of this band. They knew that, I believe. I mean, but the hate was coming from this new thing that was happening from grunge and all these different. It's like a very serious thing, And here we were with fun metal, and people, back then there's that thing that used to exist, and you'd have these certain critics and certain writers. Now, look, there was a lot of people that obviously that loved it because it sold a platinum, 2 different platinum fucking records. So it was Paul somebody, there was one in particular, one writer, and it's the equivalent of like, hate engagement now on social media. This was like, instead of there being, hundreds of people that get to say you suck, it'd just be one dude that writes for like Metal Hammer or whatever, or something like that. I forget his name, but he used to stab us, man. He just give us a punch in the mouth all the time. That guy, Paul something, and I forgot his last name.
Damn you, Paul.
But I would, you knew it's coming. And look, and we didn't really give a fuck, honestly, because we were loving what we were doing, and it wasn't like we're all sitting around going, "Man, I wish everybody really loved this." No fucking way, dude. We were busy like on tour and killing it, And the fact is, a lot of people that were doubters would see us live and go, "Oh, that's actually a good band," and change their mind. I mean, certainly we had met was a festival one time where we had met the Hootie and the Blowfish guys, right? And I remember that guitar player, really cool guy, totally rad social guy. Me and him were hanging out, and he came and sat on the side of the stage and watched us. And after the show, he came up and said, "Man, I had no idea this band was like that at all. Like, no clue." Because if you hear just a few select things, it is what it is. And honestly, even though with the inflections of, let's call it glam or whatever you want to call, or a little bit of thrash, a little glam, and a little funk, right? All smashed to one thing. Now it's also original as hell too, because it's it had Klaus's lyrics, which are kind of comical and lighthearted, and so the satire involved with it, I think, gives it a really cool original kind of flavor, especially for what was going on around it. It's incredible that we were able to survive as long as we did. If you look at the surrounding elements at the time, and like just call it 1992, right? I mean, it's a hostile environment, man. You got Nirvana hitting, you got Pearl Jam on fire, I mean, it's incredible that we
Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. This is the height of grunge.
Yeah, polar opposite of like us, right? Because we were fucking we're the party band, basically. We're having a blast and rocking out metal solos and the whole deal, and it's fascinating, and I think it's really cool. I think that we may and are now and probably will in the future be remembered as that band that kind of did that, because there's at that point in time, the other bands that kind of sounded like us, as far as I can remember, there weren't a whole lot. I think most had already been, shoveled away by Nirvana, like when in the ultimate steamroller when that happened. But man, yeah, that's why we always said we were the pimple on grunge, bro.
Do you remember the first show you ever played with Ugly Kid Joe as a member?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, the first performance wasn't a concert. It was fucking scary, but it worked out. As we had to go from the studio, we were making America's Least Wanted, then we had to go play the first ever MTV Movie Awards, right? And god damn, I was fucking nervous. So we went out on national television first and played for this thing that had, a giant viewer audience. And then the actual first on-stage show with the band would have been, I believe, Portland, Oregon. We started the Ozzy tour. And what a fascinating day, night, whatever that was for me. When I showed up for sound check, I went out there and just like, wow. You hit the guitar, go, and you hear that arena verb. I'm like, whoa, man, fuck. This is it. I'm in the dream. You're suddenly in it as far as you could just ever dream. Every kid, man, when, especially in my age group, it's all about arenas, man. I think even to this day, probably, but it was huge for me to sit there and sound check. And then when we actually got to play, it was just fascinating to me because it was like, oh wow, it's a big audience, and it's more. And I found that out later on too. The larger the audience, it's sort of even easier to play. It's not, if there's 100 people that you can look right at you, it's a little more nerve wracking to me than when you just get a spread of people like we did on some of those Ozzy shows, or even some of the larger stuff we did opening for like Bon Jovi. In the stadium thing, that was crazy, man. Yeah, that was my first show, and it was the raddest ever. I mean, raddest moment of my life at that time, for sure.
They didn't really ease you into it, eh? When your first performance is MTV Movie Awards and your first, it's Ozzy tour. I mean, can't you get baby steps leading up?
Not with that band, no. I mean, I of course had plenty of warm up in other bands and club, and I played a lot of clubs.
So I have some kind words here from someone that was with you all the way back at the beginning. This is from Cordell Crockett, bass player for Ugly Kid Joe.
Yeah,
Cordell says, Dave has always been hilarious, loyal as a true friend, grounded emotionally, and the most burning guitar player I've ever played with. His songwriting has brought integrity to UKJ that without would leave us truly meaningless. All our best tunes began as Dave Fortman songs. Dirty Drawers rocks. That's from Cordell.
It's very nice of him to say. I don't know if it'd be meaningless. I mean, but yeah, he loves my songs. He's always me and him have always gotten along so great. I love him. He's just a great dude. And what I mean, talk about the most burning. Let's say burning a fucking bass player, man. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. That guy. Yeah. I call it, that style of bass that he's able to pull off is rare. It's like I call it the 70s walk-in bass, playing walk notes in between the actual root chords. Oh, that shit is so priceless to have on a record. On the new record, it's priceless. Every record, it's been that way. You can review stuff that we did. One of the just most insane things that he ever played for us was on my song, Would You Like to Be There, on Motel California. You go listen to that fucking bass line, dude. That is just, I mean, as good as it gets. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, so I'm stoked for him to say that about me. Yeah, he's a very, very talented dude, man. So that's a hell of a compliment. Wow. I like it. Jesus.
So in 1992, you guys released the album America's Least Wanted. The album goes double platinum in the US, sells over 2 million copies. It goes gold, platinum, and multi-platinum in 4 different countries. What thoughts, memories, emotions come back to you now when you think back to that album that really kickstarted this journey you've been on since then?
All the peak times, man. There was so many amazing things. We had gotten we once got off a fucking plane and we're in London, and I think Cats had popped to like #1 or something, and it was so we were listening. I think we were in a cab, and it was like pop radio was on. It was like #1, Cats in the Cradle. I'm like, holy shit, And then there's like when you go, we were double platinum in Australia. So it was our biggest market, and we went down there, man, and played that awards show. I think, yeah, we played whatever awards they have. It's kind of like their American Music Awards, Australian Music Awards, or I don't know, it could have been their fucking Grammys for all I know. But we played with Bon Jovi, and there were other shows. The tour that we did there was just unreal. I remember the Brisbane show, and it was like that. What happens is when in shows that are that big, like it's like everybody there is basically there to see you play, right? Packed. I don't know how many fucking people it was. It had to be, 5,000 to 8,000 seats or something, and you can literally do whatever. You just go stand, let's just point out there, the people just like, that level. I think Kirk Hammett had told Klaus out or something like, when you get to that level of fame, you just go wave your hand. It's like the whole crowd just starts yelling. And I remember that in one point in that Brisbane show that, Whit had jumped off, like kind of did a jump off the drum riser, and you could hear, which we did. We were an open band most of the time, opening band. And so you could hear the crowd go nuts when he caught air. It's like, I was like, holy shit, man, this is like real, like what it really would feel like to be that level of band. Of course, now we weren't that way around the world. I think in the States, our largest headline audience, probably, I don't know, 3 Gs, maybe, not even that much. But those really pinnacle moments were magical for us. There was another one that happened in Lisbon, Portugal. We went on this tour with Def Leppard, right? Which was fucking, I counted them up from my tour book, 79 shows with those dudes, 79 shows. You talk about the lap of luxury to go warm up they were the nicest guys in the world, for one. But there was one show in particular where we had sold, the only show where we sold the majority of the tickets, and it was in Lisbon, Portugal. It turns out this fucking small arena thing, I wouldn't, probably not more than 8,000 to 10,000 people. And it's a bunch of fucking skaters, man. It looked like a bunch of skate kids, man. Like,
was Def Leppard like, what's going on here?
Oh, they were stoked, and that audience reaction, I think that everybody in the band that was there at that time would admit. I think that has to go down as the #1 show we ever played. Seriously, right behind it being the very first Rock am Ring in Germany, or yeah, the first one for sure. I mean, that was also unbelievable. But the Lisbon, Portugal show opening for Def Leppard was my personal greatest show, and I think the band probably thinks the same thing. If they remember correctly, how fucking crazy that was. These kids were going ape shit. We were the Beatles, at least for that one little blip in time. It was great. It was unbelievable. Those are the moments, man, that you remember from having a record do what it did like that, and all the things, the performances you do. We were on MTV Europe and just tons of exposure, and then when like when you're on tour, you're not necessarily home watching MTV. So then when we get a break and then you go home and you're like, oh my God, like Cats in the Cradle's like been rotating for 3 months and like 12 weeks at number one or something in rotation. And you start realizing, God, man, this is really huge. We're just deep in it on the road. We had like fucking club tours, or a club tour that was really long in America. We just were tearing it up, man. We went nuts. We toured everywhere on America's Least Wanted, and it was a fucking blast. Yeah.
The songs Cats in the Cradle and Everything About You were both top 10 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, when people think of the Hot 100, that's normally like your Mariahs and your Celine's and your Rihanna's and your Ed Sheeran. So for a rock band to go to number one on a rock chart, that is a huge deal. Both of these songs are top 10, period, Billboard Hot 100. So like the top 10 songs basically in the world. That's like what that represents. Why do you think people love those two songs so much? I mean, even now combined, those two songs have 250 million plays on Spotify. Why do you think people love those songs so much?
Well, the Everything About You is kind of obvious in itself, right? It's a great song for one. I think the attraction of the band itself was new and fresh, and it had the California Beach guys, but also, that's a perfect song for everybody, kind of like a viral video would be on Instagram these days, when they go like, oh my God, I got to share this with somebody. When you get a bunch of shares, well, it's the same kind of thing. That song it represents the same idea, where it's like, oh my God, like this goes perfect, for my husband or whatever, as a joke. On and on and on. And of course, that you can only give theories to why something is ever a hit. It's sort of the great unknown in the music industry. Still to this day, we don't know what'll move the masses. If we did, we'd all have hits every fucking day. And every time we tried, we'd win, but we don't. Still pretty low percentages on people calling hits. It's not easy to do. But yeah, Cats is obvious. That it's a great version of that song. And the song was already a smash when Harry Chapin did it, So Mark Dotson really did a really good job. The production on that, I find that to be unbelievably focused and perfect for what that song needed. He really knocked that fucking thing out of the ballpark. I still, when I go back and study it, sometimes just to kind of see, I'll get a read on, who we were as opposed to what we are now sometimes. So moving forward, like with the new album and things, I generally go study, just try to get my head wrapped around like what could happen, make this thing kind of go forward. And that was one that when I ran across it, just kind of studied it down real quick. I was like, holy fuck. Like this is really well done, all the way through the mix, like everything. It's just one of those, sometimes all of it will come together in the right way. And it works really well with the public. And it wasn't even intended at the time to be a single when we made it. But I know Mark, the producer, Mark Dotson, was really passionate about it. He really put his fucking back into that shit, and it came out great. And I think Johnny Dare maybe was the radio guy. Whit knows. I keep forgetting, and Whit has to remind me. But they started to spin it somewhere. It might have been even Denver. Fuck, I don't know. I probably shouldn't try to quote these things because I'm old and fucking can't remember shit. So I think that's what happened. It's one of those things where they spun it and suddenly it caught fire. And so we got the kind of the alert to go make a video and start promoting this thing. And boy, that one, yeah. So that's an obvious one why that did, that was organic. People, I think I think yeah, both subject matters of those songs are really relatable. One is "I Hate Everything About You," and it's a joke song, like people be like, give this to somebody to make a joke or whatever. And then "Cats in the Cradle" is relatable because you got the world of the father son or the parenting thing. When everybody's got, every parent has had the feeling that they weren't there enough or didn't do a good enough job. I mean, at least I do, or certainly every parent that's been an artist or in, some form. It's just a pretty normal human thing, I think, throughout. I think both of those are sort of in different ways, but like both pretty normal human emotions that are relatable and good songs in the end. Klaus wrote a great song, man. He was young. I don't even know what age he was when he wrote Everything About You, but it's a hooky damn tune. I watched before I ever joined the band. I took all the guys from Sugartooth when we were She Died at the time, but I brought them to the Whiskey to see Ugly Kid Joe, and they were with their friend. I think his name was Ron Day, maybe. But I think he was in the music industry. I can't really remember, but I remember him looking over after that song, and he's saying, "Oh, that's a hit. I like this song a lot," and it was Everything About You.
So when we scheduled this interview, I put out the bat signal to the Dave Fortman fans, to the Ugly Kid Joe fans. They came out in droves. So I'm going to sprinkle those questions throughout the interview. And the first one here is from Tim Randa. The question is, what made them decide to cover Cats in the Cradle, as it seemed a bit out of their lane? They did a great job, though. So that's from Tim.
Oh, yeah. Early on, now I think I'm correct on this, but I think it was Witt's idea, and I believe he did cover Cats in the Cradle in a band before Ugly Kid Joe, if I'm not mistaken. But it goes way back, and I know that I think Witt had just wanted to cover it at some point, way early, in the earliest, and then even in the earliest versions of Ugly Kid Joe, they were doing it. When I saw him in Isla Vista, just hanging out before I was ever in the band, that when they played that, it blew me away. I was like, oh wow. I'm like, what is this song, man? And it was such a good version of it, and of course Witt's voice on it is just magical sounding. And it was in a keg party too. I mean, you could hear it then, and so yeah, that, as far as I know, that is is where it came from, as far as I know. It's been a long time.
We have a fan question about the 1995 album Menace to Sobriety. This is from Dave Kornhaber. His question is, do you have any cool stories from the making of the Menace album?
Yeah, a lot. We went to make that album with Garth Richardson, Go Go Garth, out in Santa Ynez, California. We had rented this fucking mansion, and it used to be Jimmy Stewart's, I believe. And it was literally right down the road from Neverland, Michael Jackson's ranch, right? So we'd see that driving in. But in that house, man, I think it's even in, I don't know if that's in the credits, but we fucking were maniacs in there. And Klaus pulled the fridge out and painted a big pentagram behind the fridge. We had food fights in there. I mean, with the penalties and the amount of damage and shit we had to pay for. We were young, man, and drunk, having a blast. But what a cool record to make. We set up. It wasn't a studio, so we set up in the living room of this fucking joint. And I remember Garth had set like a fucking PA up in there, man. So it was like almost like a live concert. I mean, there's monitors and the whole deal. Like Shannon playing drums, and I'm hearing a guitar coming out of it. If I remember correctly, it's like a stack of like a PA. And to get the drums, that's how we recorded the drums. Was everybody standing there just jamming, and it was great. It was such a cool vibe to do that. And then we would track in this other room, and it was just a beautiful property, man, way out Santa Ynez. Yeah, that was a fun ass record to make. And then we had a party during that album, where all our friends drove out from Santa Barbara, and Snot played the party with us, right? Snot. And the early version of Snot wasn't the same members and all that stuff, but yeah, what a fucking legendary time that was for us. It was just really fun. At least I used to love driving out there. It's back in my weed days, man. I'll get all stoned and drive out and record all day. Yeah, it was a blast. And we all, of course, had rooms there in the house. I'd go back and forth. That's about it from there. Yeah, it was just a cool setup. Tons of fun to be there, and all the damage was incredible that we that those people incurred on their house. Poor people.
We have a fan question from Larry Anderson who wants to know if those are all your Natural Light beer cans on the inside of Menace. And he put a laughing face.
If they're near my amp, yeah, they are. But everybody's drinking in that scenario for sure, like the whole fucking thing. But I do believe a lot of my Natural Lights showed up on that picture. Yeah, certainly, man. That was getting ready for Menace. Yeah, we were in writing. We used to have a blast in there too. We rented this big ass warehouse, but it sounded like shit because it was so big. So we built a fucking box inside the warehouse to jam in, which sounded great. We just had somebody come in and build a square box with drywall, and it fucking sounded killer in there. Laid down all those songs, man. We put all that stuff together. Got Shannon in the band during that time and started jamming with him. Yeah, really, really just what an amazing time in Santa Barbara in those days in 1995. God, it was fun. That would have been 94 in those pictures, I believe. Yeah, heading into 95.
And when you mentioned Shannon, this is Shannon Larkin, who would go on to play drums for Godsmack.
Oh, yeah, well. The dog. Yep, that's when we got Shannon. His original tryout, was in that room that you see in the picture on Minister Sobriety. And we were just like blown away. I remember me and Klaus going back and looking at the video of him playing. I believe it was Madman. Yeah. And he's like, you got to come over, man, and look and check this out. So we were still between a few different guys and hadn't gotten to the point of like totally thinking it out. We thought we were going to have more people, but we went back and looked at Shannon on that video of Madman. And Klaus is like, this is the dude. I'm like, that's the dude for sure, man. We've got to have that. We want that thing, whatever I'm looking at. That's our guy. He's incredible. I mean, he's just an amazing drummer. I just ran across this fucking footage. I think I'm going to do a remix reel of it because it's so badass, man. It's Shannon. Remo Drumheads did a post or something. I don't know what it is, but there's a stretch of him playing When Legends Rise with Godsmack, and he gets to the breakdown. I mean, you couldn't get a more accurate representation of like meter and execution, and I'm just sitting there watching it like, wow, I played in a band with that guy. That's so rad.
I know him.
He's incredible, man. It's a trip. I just watched that. I'm like, God damn. I don't know how long it's like this 30-second piece in there that's so fucking perfect. There's really nothing you can say about it. It's just like it's like the record would be, it's really I'm a drummer, and when I see the people that can play like that, it always blows me away because it's years of practice and in the accomplishment and it's the confidence level they can have, and that's in front of a bunch of people in a fucking arena. I mean, it freaks me out that drummers can do that, man. I love drums. That was my first instrument, and so I'm still fascinated by really good drummers.
So you mentioned that the album was produced by Garth Richardson, who, in my opinion, is one of the great producers. He did Rage Against the Machine's debut album. He did I Wonder What's Next from Chevelle. He did Kitty Spit. He's amazing. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't reach out to one Garth Richardson and get some kind words. So Garth says, Dave is a sweetheart of a human. If you look closely, he is trying to copy my look. I mean, bald head, hair on his chin, black glasses. But please send him my love and ask him about the party at the ranch in Santa Barbara. That's what you just mentioned.
Oh, yeah. There you go. He busted me. See, I'm going for the Garth look,
It's a good look, though.
I have it, yeah. I totally stole that look. Now, he inspired me so much. He was the first person. And at the time, I took it kind of like, what? Because I was such an artist back then. Like, he actually pulled me aside and mentioned, you should be a producer, man. You'd be really good at it. Because I was kind of the go-to guy for the band to bounce stuff off of. And, that there's always that one guy in the band kind of. But in my mind, I was kind of thrown by it. I was like, wait, does this guy not think I'm good enough to be an artist? Like, wait, what does this mean? He doesn't like me as an artist? You get all self-conscious. And then, and Whit had mentioned the same thing during Motel California that maybe I should start being a producer. And I took that as an insult in my own mind. I was insecure. But Garth is the rad. He's rad, man. I ended up running into him a lot later on. I always love seeing him. But just, I love some of the sayings he had. What was it about? Something like Canadian. Oh, you're fucking Canadian, so it's like two eggs side by each or whatever the fuck. He had all these different things. He's a funny dude, man. He's a really fucking funny guy. He had me laughing.
He's a proud Canadian. He loves his sports teams for sure.
You know what? And I would imagine Garth would remember. I met Garth because he came. And poor Garth. This story ends where Sugar Tooth singer or She Died singer ends up ruining this for everybody. But Garth came to practice, right? He was one of the first people to come see She Died, and he saw us jamming, man, and he saw Joey, and he's just like, he fucking loved it. You wanted to figure out how to help us, right? So he ends up bringing an A&R guy to see us at some club in LA. And the A&R guy heard the singer start singing, and he's like, looked at Garth like he was fucking crazy and walked out of the fucking club, if I'm remembering correctly. But Garth certainly would remember that. Yeah, so my history with Garth actually goes back farther than Ugly Kid, because I had met him through She Died at the time, and he loved us. He's a guy, like when he showed up to see She Died in rehearsal, Garth's that guy. He just starts jamming out, and same as when he came and saw Ugly Kid before the record. I think we played the Beach House or whatever that place was called in Santa Barbara. Just really into it, man. He's a music guy. He fucking totally gets it. His vibe was great, man. Just letting us rip it up in the fucking living room in a mansion, fucking badass. A great idea. Like, it was the coolest, just amazing, fun time. Really was great. I loved it.
So we mentioned that Garth produced the debut Rage Against the Machine album, and on 1996 album Motel California, you guys have perhaps the best song title ever in Rage Against the Answering Machine. What can you tell us about that?
I don't remember how it came about. I don't even remember. Was there? Yeah, Rage Against the Answer. Is there music to it? It's like music going, right?
I think it's like 1 minute. There's music, but it's a recorded voice message too.
Yeah, I don't know. We probably just had a jam. I couldn't tell you, man. It's been so long now on that one. I really don't know. I know that, yeah, Whit had a voicemail or something, and I think we just decided to throw it over. I don't know if it's even like preconceived that we would do this thing and then put them all together. Usually with us, it just kind of fucking happens, man. It happened, and then there it is, that kind of thing. But yeah, I couldn't tell you, honestly. But it's pretty funny.
The song Little Red Man features a very famous guest. Can you talk about this guest for us?
Oh, yeah, Lemmy, man. Little Red Man. Yeah, Whit has hit it off with the British metal gods from day one, from way back when. Rightfully so. They could hear what Whit was doing, while we were being hated by grunge and everybody else in the world. Well, these people know exactly what Whit is, and he's a powerful fucking badass metal singer. They could clearly hear this. And Rob Halford sang on Goddamn Devil on America's Least Wanted, and came in like, listened to like Neighbor, I think, and he was like, he said something positive about it. He said, "I have spoken." It was great. But he not only sang with us, but Lemmy too. When we had, I believe these things are really tough because it's so long ago. But I think Whit met him when we toured with him, opening for Ozzy, and so they became really good friends. Actually, Whit would go and ride on the tour bus for weeks at a time with him. Lemmy loved Whit. He really did. They had a great relationship, and he also guest starred on Motel California, which is great. And Ozzy and Whit had a great relationship as well, and I really, attribute the whole thing to the fact that these guys know, man, they see Whit live. They know that this dude is a powerhouse, just like I know, which I believe kind of publicly got overshadowed just because of the time that things were happening, and I think it was Libby that told Wit, you guys just missed it, man. Like if we'd have just been like a little earlier, we'd have crushed the fucking metal scene. We would have been like the greatest metal band ever. But we kept the torch alive. And I think that all those guys, man, they're such metal heroes and icons could really see that thing in Wit, because he's not just he's a great fucking front man. I mean, the savior of every night where I felt like I was in a prison light, that happens where you just feel like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And the audience is looking at you like you're an idiot. Wit would pull us out of those in a heartbeat, get the audience warmed back up and get them into it. And suddenly next thing you fucking know, 5 songs in, they're going crazy. That is only caused by a great lead singer. And he can back it up by singing his balls off. And that's just, it's apparent. You can see it. And I think that all those icon guys could definitely tell and befriended with,
There was a 13-year hiatus for the band. And then starting in 2010, you guys reunite, you release an EP and 2 albums. We have a fan question from Robert Portillo. The question is, did the years of producing other bands inform your songwriting and arrangements when you got back with Ugly Kid?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah, because you can't help but get inspired. I mean, before I'd done the next round of Ugly Kid Joe, I mean, Jesus Christ, I got to sit there and listen to fucking Tribs, Greg Tribbett play guitar, which is just a fucking phenomenon in itself. I mean, to just watch him play riffs. I mean, back when he was tracking anything from Lost and Found, like Happy. I mean, just look at all the riffs that are on there. He's the main guy writing all the musical stuff for Mudvayne. That's just one of them, Then I got to see Jim and Mick from Slipknot playing guitar, all these different guitar players. And you start getting into how rad their riffs are. And plus seeing the beauty of what the Evanescence guys were writing, and you just learn as when you produce as much as I did before we started doing Ugly Kid Joe, you start to know more things about songwriting than I started to know more about songwriting than I did when I was a songwriter with Ugly Kid Joe, based on the fact that I'm now trying to enhance bands and trying to get their songs to be better. So I literally was like studying that more than I'd ever studied it. And so I think it reflected, absolutely, the answer to that is yes, that it reflected in my songwriting going forward with Ugly Kid. Now, it was the same process. We are the type of guys that, at least when we started in 2012, or we're just reaching for the sky, like whatever's coming to me, I'm going to work on that idea, I'll get it, and I try to get some lyrics and so forth. But yeah, I would say major influence is just all the different things I was able to be a part of, and kind of adding them into the moments and riff wise, all kinds of stuff, and certainly. And also, it was a hectic time. I was partying and fucking going ape shit back in 2010 and like 12, whenever we released that. I was a pretty wild dude. We'll say that, man. I was fucking on a tear.
They were the best of times. We have a fan question about 2015's album, Uglier Than They Used to Be. This is from Charlie Hale. His question is,
Charlie.
Ask King Dave what Nothing Ever Changes was about, how it came together, and why is it so goddamn gorgeous?
Before I answer that, I'll say thanks, Charlie. I have a certain amount of people that are just iron supporters of mine, and so if I put out a dud post or a reel, they still support me, and they still always come through. Justin Amato's another one. Daniel Lasbeck. There's a couple of these guys. They're the greatest ever, and so
they laugh at the jokes that aren't funny.
Yeah, they'll get me through it. If I've been pretty lucky, I'm getting good views and things are going great social media wise, but it's not easy, man. So to have some support people is just good. You get in that like, oh man, can I keep going? But now for that song, yeah. Now I just said how I was a raging maniac. Yeah, I was also in some pretty dark times, man. Right around then, and so that song, I was just burnt one night. I actually wrote most of that song laying in bed, looking up at the ceiling with the guitar laying flat down like that. I kept going over and over and over. I'm like, wow, this is actually really good. And then I just wrote the most insane dark lyrics because I was hungover and I was partying and I was just in a weird place. So that song came out of that. for sure. That's just a part of how I felt, man. I was in a rotten moment in my life when I was writing that. Over a few days, I wrote it, and it is a pretty song, yeah. And the vibe of what I was feeling comes right on through it, for sure. That's what it was, Charlie.
In 2022, you guys released the album Rad Wings of Destiny. Now that we have the full discography in view, when you look back at the entire discography, are there any songs that you feel are underappreciated, that you yourself are like, man, that song is so incredible, fans never bring it up, or we don't play it in concert or whatever? Anything that's underappreciated?
I don't know. I mean, our core fan base, like, they fucking listen to everything. Like, they, the ones that are really fans, like, they go and check all that shit out. I think the biggest thing that it did gain a little bit of traction, but I thought, because once again, I mean, Mark Dodson did a really fucking great job on uh, not only that album, but he did Jesus Christ, that cover of Lola. I mean, it's incredible sounding. I couldn't believe that didn't do better than it did. Uh, and especially, I mean, Mark knocked out of the ballpark. I mean, everything, the style, how he got it to sound, like the performances on it are great. It's really alive sounding, and it's just a cool ass fucking outcome. That one I think is underappreciated, but for the most part, yeah, it seems like, you know, at least right now in our careers, I mean, we're pretty like, we're basically mostly relying on our core fans, really, says the numbers, that kind of thing. Hopefully trying to expand that some on this upcoming record. We'll see. It's to be seen still, for various reasons, but that'd be great. But so far, yeah, I think that core fans listen to most of the stuff on the records, and there's not anything, I don't know, not anything on those records that I would think that didn't get appreciated enough. Certainly, I'm a numbers guy. I go look at all these numbers, and I get stoked. I'm like, oh, who knew? One of them that came out of nowhere was The Enemy off of 2015, right? Uglier Than You Used to Be, I believe. Is that the name of that record? Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That song gets spins. I mean, it gets streams, and it popped out of nowhere. What else was there? There's a couple like that. And you go like, okay, so people find their way, the core fan base finds their way into the songs, there's obviously songs that I like a lot, that I guess I have one that I fucking think is brilliant. I think it's literally such a great song that Klaus wrote, is, and maybe should have just been a fucking single. I don't know, but it's Let the Record Play. That song to me is so fucking cool. And the cadence of the vocal and what Klaus wrote, I just think it's a great song. It's got a good vibe to it. So if I had to name, I'll give you one. That one. There you go. Let the Record Play.
This episode has been brought to you by the Women in the Music Industry podcast. It's hosted by music producer Rob Wells, who has worked with global superstars like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, and Selena Gomez. Through his 1-hour interviews, he shines a spotlight on the remarkable women who are breaking barriers and making their mark in the music industry. Some of his notable guests include Morgan Lander of the multi-million selling metal band Kitty, and Pam Shane, who co-wrote Genie in a Bottle for Christina Aguilera. If you're a fan of the Joel Martin Mastery podcast, you'll love the Women in the Music Industry podcast, which is available on all platforms. You mentioned there's an upcoming album. Is there anything you can share with our listeners about that upcoming album? Are you looking at a 2026 release? Is it going to be an EP right or now, a full length? What can we expect musically?
No, I think I forget. Damn, are we dropping 12 or 10? It's like 10 or 12 songs. I can't remember. There's like different plans on how to get it released. I think it's in 2 chunks. I don't know if I'm supposed to give that information away, but might be. I don't know if any of this is positively true. I'm not really that much in that department. But I know that, yeah, if you look at it as a whole, yeah, there's like 12 songs, and I think we're trying to release them all. And if any other version of that, at least 10 of them coming out. But but I think 12, if I remember correctly. I actually haven't had this conversation in months, so I don't remember a whole lot. Um, Still it's all pretty much to be determined. But what I can say is that we really went through this time and just worked it the right way. It's the first time that I've ever really applied my own production abilities all the way, because in the past, for me at least, well, on Rad Wings, right, that was a chance for me I wanted to let Mark produce that one because we love Mark and it's a nostalgic thing and the album's great. And that's what we did. So, and it was a good time. I just got to be an artist and have fun and drink and play guitar. I love that, right? And then the previous records too, they're kind of like, we just fucking go in there and knock it out. I'm sure I'm producing like I always do, but not to the extent of this record where I went in early on and started doing the psychological kind of producing, which is confidence building, which I wanted songs out of Klaus this time around. So early on, I start working on him subconsciously, so he doesn't know I'm trying to get songs out of him. And it worked. He has, I think, a few of the best songs he's ever fucking written on this album. And I really want that. That's exactly where this band came from. Started the whole fucking thing, writing a hit, and he is all majority. I mean, almost everything on Americans Just Wanted is all Klaus. So I got that, and then the other one was to start early on with me and Whit co-writing, right, and just seeing what we could do, and still, I think there's like 3 of mine that are written just by me. Like, there's always that kind of thing. Me and Klaus usually have songs, but me and Whit, I think, have some of the most magical stuff on the record because we did this one thing. We went and did not let songs live that weren't all the way mind-blowing. And so we have one of the songs, which I love. It's really, really great. It's coming out. I won't give away any titles. I don't know how these guys are going about stuff, so I'll just leave it all out. But there's one tune that I think it went through, and we laughed about this so hard because you can go look on Pro Tools. And I don't know how many fucking versions of this thing we did. It's just basically sort of the saying, like Max Martin, the great songwriter, said, you got to kill your babies, man. You got to be willing to do it. However much you think it's fucking great. If you don't feel it 100% blowing you away, just keep working at it and keep doing new parts and keep going and going and going. And we did that exact process to almost 6 or 7 of these songs are that kind of process. And some of those, in my opinion, are my favorite song on the whole fucking record is that. And it's also, we are in the peak ever in Whit's writing. Like, this is his fucking moment, dude. I'm telling you, he has some stuff that are riffs that he's saying out of his mouth that I was able to translate and kind of mold everything into musically being a tune. But there's also these vocal lines and melodies that he would keep hashing over, and some metaphors and some of the poetry that are written into these things. In my personal opinion, only some of the best shit this band's ever done. And one song not just that, there are a number of songs that were done like that. My favorite song on the record I consider it to be the fucking magnum opus of this damn record, is Whit and his riffs, my chord progression in the chorus, but his riffs and his melody lines everywhere. Nothing for me lyrically on it. This is all him and just being fucking genius this time around in his writing ability. And we just sat and did it right in my other place when I was living in Cape Coral, right in my bedroom. He just lay there on the bed and knock shit out all day. And it was an incredible process. It really was. We've never done something like that so fruitful, like to produce that many things out of us together. And so it was a fascinating process. And then we also had Klaus come down and get a bunch of his stuff knocked out. He has his own personal greatest song he's ever written, in my opinion. That's going to be out too, and it's incredibly rad. So this is, every band, when you have a new album, most people say it's the best shit we've ever done, you know. And then they say, but this time, this is the no, I mean it this time, not the last one, but this one. But this is the best thing we ever done. Even though I think I said it last time. It's incredible. I love it. I know the guys are really proud of it. Sounds amazing. There's more production on this than anything we've ever done. There's more production things happening, arrangement wise, part wise, overdub wise, sounds going on, and things like that, and stuff elements of things we've never had on an Ugly Kid Joe record ever that were added by yours truly in the second round of mixing. I went and did an entirely different production sweep through it and remixed everything because I got sober. I started going like, I realized a lot. I was mixing Godsmack's live at Mohegan Sun, the new live record at the end of 2024, and I started to realize, maybe I should go back, and listen to the UKJ one again. And certainly, it began as a sonic journey just for me to try to get a better sounding mix, and then all of a sudden that turned into, wow, look, I could add all this, and I started getting better at learning to back things up with pads and whatever that you can't really hear, but they just add width and size to a mix. And then I started to add sounds and production stuff and so it turned into an entirely different fucking record after I did that. And that took me months to do. So yeah, I put in a lot of work. I hope fans like it. We fucking love it. And I think it's certainly the most unique piece of work, and it's back to metal. This is straight up, Rad Wings of Destiny was us writing stuff with no palm mutes in it, and I brought that up to Klaus on the tour that we had done. I don't know what tour it was in Europe. And I was like, man, we didn't, or no, it was on an American tour. I'm like, damn, we didn't, Rad Wings of Destiny, it doesn't have like a single song. I think it's just the break and kill the pain. It has a palm mute. You know what a palm mute is?
A little chugging.
Chunking. And I'm like, because I'm like playing sound check. I'm like, every fucking song, even Milkman's Son has a chunk, all of our songs. I'm like, that's the history of this fucking band. I'm like, what are we thinking, man? What were we thinking when we wrote Rad Wings of Destiny? Like, what the fuck are we thinking? It's like strum songs, like he's strumming electric guitar on all those songs. And so I'm like, man, I told Klaus, we got to write a record full of chunks, man. So that led us into what is now, Klaus has, which hopefully will be the first song anybody hears. It is just an amazing song. And all of these songs reflect a more heavier rock metal sound. Some are straight badass old metal. It's just a cool vibe, really is. I'm glad that it went that way.
Well, now
Certainly.
You've got me excited to sink my teeth into the new album, so I'll keep an eye out for that.
It's cool as fuck, man. It's great.
So for the final 30 minutes or so, I'd love to dive into your production career now. Where did that love of production come from? So we know you as a musician. Where do you start to really notice the audio engineering side and the producing, the mixing, all that stuff?
Well, it starts with the fascination of me having just playing guitar as a kid. And then I got, instead of one amp, I tried to get 2 amps. And then I put them up like on shelves, these little Gorilla amps, and I put them up on shelves in my room and bought a stereo chorus pedal. And it was in that moment when I heard stereo chorus, I was like, whoa. I was like, man, I'm like in an arena, bro. I was like 16. And then I bought this thing called a Roland DEP5, an effects unit that had all kinds of like panning delays and all this shit. And I was like, whoa, man. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. And then I got a 4-track. Back then I started recording our band, and then I would go to like this other band, the Phantoms. I recorded them. I went up in like the fucking attic and ran a fucking snake up there or whatever, just so I could try to get sounds on it. And I started getting obsessed with that. The whole time that I was doing music, all the way through Ugly Kid Joe, I was always recording things on 4-track, and I was fascinated with it. So that just led to me having the urge to finally make the dream come true when me and Klaus came back to Santa Barbara in 1994 after relentless touring for 2 years. I was able to like get a Mackie board. I got a house that had a little studio in the garage, and off I went, man. I was obsessed with that as much as I was anything else, you know. And so then it came time, you know, uh, to figure out what to do after the band broke up in '96, and I had already been making demos. I made the Snot demo there. I made this band Ultra Spank, which became Low Pro. Also got signed. I did a demo for them. And then I was like, you know, I'll put out an ad and just start doing local clientele here in Santa Barbara to make money. I need to do something, you know, so it'd be a cool job. And then I started doing that and people loved it. And then I figured out how cheap it was. I had kids coming. And so I already had a daughter. It was like one. And so I figured, man, you know, I found out how cheap it was in Louisiana where I was from to get a house as opposed to Santa Barbara. And my good friend Gene Joanna was also had a studio in Louisiana that we were kind of going to do satellite work back and forth from. And so I decided, man, you know, I'm going to go home and raise my kids around my mom. And so I got a house down there for a fraction of the price and just went down there and started doing a local studio. And I was perfectly fucking happy doing that. It was a way to survive is what the way I looked at it at the time. You know, I was like, this is great. And then I just parlayed into everything else, you know. That's the early beginnings, you know.
And one of the early albums that you produced was the self-titled debut album from 12 Stones. And I went out and purchased that album when it came out. I was a fan. And you ended up doing 2 more albums with 12 Stones over the next 15 years after that. And I have some kind words from one Paul McCoy, frontman for 12 Stones.
All right.
Paul says, Dave is one in a million. In a lot of ways, there possibly wouldn't be a 12 Stones without his contributions. He recorded our first demo. He co-produced our debut album and produced both the Potter's Field and Picture Perfect records. His musical knowledge is second to none, and his feel for a song helped me see a whole new view of songwriting. He's a madman, and I'm happy to call him a friend. That's from Paul McCoy.
Yeah, he's right. I love Paul, man. I like the kind words thing you do. That's great. Yeah, it's good to hear from people. Yeah, I try to support Paul as much as possible. He's the king, man. You know, I love when people go after it, you know. And I believe he's signed over now with Howard Benson. Those guys, I believe, have 12 Stones.
Judge and jury.
You know, yeah, man, that's great. You know, fucking, you need Paul works his butt off, and he's still an artist, and it's great to see. And so I try to give him as much social media help and liking everything and doing all that stuff. And I did a post about one of the new songs, which is badass. Goddamn. You know, he got seasoned even more as a singer. You know, it was long. Yeah, it was like the last thing we had done together. I was like, damn, dude. I was listening to him sing, and I'm like, fucking hey, like, god damn, he got good. Because over time, you know, people go on the road and they keep growing as a singer, and especially him, man. Just today, before we did the podcast, I ran across. I think he was at an open mic night back in my hometown, and I was like, there you go, fucking, you know, repetition and hard work and practice. He's just got a great voice, and his pitch and tonality are so fucking good now. And he was a youngin' man when we first hooked up, you know. I don't know, he was like 19 or something, you know. He was rad though, and I remember hearing him sing then. I was like, okay, fucking A. But what an incredible journey, yeah, through all that stuff, you know. But my first national release was from the NOLA scene, man. The NOLA scene is like where the first thing that I ever did before 12 Stones ever showed up. It was with, you know, Jimmy Bower had brought the Mystic Crew of Clearlight, which was a New Orleans band. It's a musical act with no vocals, and it, you know, these long badass jams, an incredible record. Pepper Keenan, who I'd known, obviously, I was telling you about the skate story, me and Pepper going to Houston. We were old friends, so Pepper had told everybody I was back in town. So Jimmy Bower, you know, wanted to come over and do a recording. So we did Clearlight, and that ended up catching the attention of everybody, including Phil Anselmo. And so Phil had come in to check me out and do a couple of Superjoint songs, and he liked that. And so we ended up doing the first and second Superjoint record, as well as the whole, I mean, Sonic Excess in its purest form. Crowbar was me back, and I don't even know what year it was, man. A couple of years before 12 Stones, or maybe a year. I Hate God. I mean, Soylent Green, a bunch of them were coming over. I did a few other side things for Phil. That scene really at the time, they were like these little $5,000 indie records, but I was getting literally name credits that would be really important as I moved into Los Angeles, the Los Angeles thing with 12 Stones. It just everything helped really, and those guys were just a vital part of survival for me. So I can never be thankful enough. And plus the nostalgia of me now mixing the new Down record pulls it all full circle. For those guys, bring me back on that, and they love it. It sounds great. And these dudes are relentless at everything they do. I mean, the multitasking. I don't know if you saw that post, but they're multitasking out on tour. They are all absolute experts at social media, and they're willing to be on camera every day. And that says a lot, man. And that's how you do it. This is how you build an account. This is how you get popular, even more than you already are. I mean, Crowbar's explosion is unmatched, man. It's insane. They took from, a meme on TikTok, giving them exposure. Well, they took advantage of that. And, it's like, I feel, I feel like I'm, Kirk's my roommate because I see him all the time on social media. And it's a good feeling. So I'm glad I'm also participating in that whole thing because I get the same reaction from people. Uh, it's called personal connection content. And people, when they start to see you multiple times over and over and over, it is the new world of how things are sold. You sell yourself first, product afterwards, where it used to be the other way around in the old days, right? But now it's a chance for us to do whatever we want on camera. And even if I'm a music producer, well, I just made a reel about shrooms that got 100,000 fucking views. Have you seen that shroom reel?
I did. Is it where you're driving on shrooms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That fucking reel got 2,800 shares, man, and 11,000 fucking likes. So it has nothing to do with me producing music, yet it brings traffic to me as a person and what I do. And then people, it's like the onion effect, and they go in and start looking, well, what is this? Oh shit, this guy fucking produced Evanescence. Like, goddamn, okay. My reel about the Midnight Special, it's right now 770,000 views on that thing on Instagram. It's crazy. And so that has like 50,000 fucking likes. It's crazy how much you can get done just by participating in social media. And it's true, as much as people don't want to follow what it does in the algorithm and all those things that are commonly talked about with creators. Well, the fact is there's a fucking cheat code. They give you the fucking meta guidelines every year. If you go study what that is that they're going to favor and you do that, then it favors you. You get to, you get seen by all these people that are not your followers. And that's the whole point. You want to get seen by other people that are not your followers in order to create a larger audience for yourself. I gained a little over 9,000 followers in 18 weeks. And that's just because I'm playing by the fucking rules with the algorithm, man. I'm just even if I dud, I got to keep putting another one out. Go, 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 go. After we finish this, guess what I'm doing? I'm fucking shooting reels, man. I got to start scripting. I script all day now. I mix too. I got to work. And I got a quick break right now between things, but I'm scripting. Even when I'm mixing in the morning, I'm fucking shooting reels and scripting out stuff, making sure I can actually perform them right, so they're funny or documentary style, or are they good? But I'm sorry, I'm on a tangent now about social media. But yeah, I think we were talking about how rad Paul was. That's probably a better subject. But Paul's also good at social media, man. He's great at it, So it's wonderful to see. That was just some kind words, man. It's wonderful to see him all the time on social media as well. I love it. Give me some more kind words, man.
I, of all people, can appreciate the importance of social media and clips and reels. It's all I do. Yeah. Every waking moment I do is preparing for an interview, editing an interview, releasing clips. Yeah. So the algorithm and I are best friends. I understand.
Yeah, you gotta play. But when it loves you, it hugs you good, man. Gives you a big old kiss. Like, come on, here, 700,000 views. Like, what the fuck, Jesus? That's a trip. I had no idea that was gonna happen to me. Mine was fully by accident too. I stumbled into it. Just trying. I was trying to just show. Really, I was making reels that didn't involve me from footage that we had about the new record, because my girlfriend is in social media, right? And so I started to really realize, oh my God, like there's all these things that as a band, this is the modern day. This is what you got to do. So I really was trying to just lead by example. Uh, and so I was just going to do a few just to do it for whatever. And all of a sudden, the first one got like 20,000 or 17,000 or something about the sober shit that I came out. I was on the field talking about how I was sober. That initial reaction, then all of a sudden you get all these people reaching out, and all of a sudden all this attention happens. Then you go like, oh, fuck, all right. Then I started to understand that it was nothing at all like I thought it was when I first started, that this is about personal branding. No matter what it is you actually do, you can do whatever you want in the new modern, what is now called interest media. It's not even considered social media. Social media was like you and your friends and you doing all shit. Now this is interest media. It's a fight for mind share and interest. This is what's going on now, and so that means you could do whatever you want. If you put out like 3 reels a week, even one a week will suffice to keep the algorithm happy without having any kind of dips or anything, because then it kills your views if you do that. But if you play along and put statics out, put carousels out, do all the normal stuff, and then engage with your audience and all those things, it works. I proved it, So I guess I did end up being an example for the band that these things do need to happen in order to sell or to go any further, basically, to sell records, whatever you want to do. I mean, it's the new gatekeepers, it's the new MTV, basically. It's the new whatever. It's bigger than any other media source for musicians on the planet, and especially TikTok, which, I'm not, my numbers are all Instagram, which I'm happy, whatever. I get the biggest numbers there. So I just focus on that. That's, pretty much where I'm cutting my teeth is on that. But yeah, you're in it, dude. You're fucking editing and doing all that shit like I'm doing. Same deal.
We're going to get some numbers talking about this next band. So in 2003, you work with this little unknown band, Evanescence. So you do the album Fallen in 2003. What's that?
I've heard of them. Yeah, Evan. I remember them.
This little band. So Fallen in 2003, as well as the Open Door in 2006. I'm going to tee this up. So Fallen comes out. It goes diamond in the US. That's 10 million copies sold, sells over 17 million albums globally. The Open Door sells another 7 million copies. Fallen itself is the 7th best-selling album of the 21st century, which is such a ridiculous, unbelievable stat. My question is, all 4 singles on Fallen, Bring Me to Life, Going Under, My Immortal, Everybody's Fool, all 4 singles sound like hit singles to me. When you were writing and recording that album with those 4 songs, did you know you had something special, or is it hard to know until things come out and fans react?
Yeah. Well, at the time, like the style of it was so different. Yeah, most of the time innovation's hard to see because it's so different, and the things that are innovative and take over suddenly out of nowhere can oftentimes be really different than the expected thing, right? Like you can't really know. I knew it was fucking special, in a sense of the musicianship. The songs were great. I knew that. You ultimately want to go in and try to make the best songs you can get out of people, which we did. And in my head, not in anybody's head, were we confident that this would be a diamond record. There's no fucking way, man. You have a slight dream that, yeah, this hopefully could do good. But the fact is, we were met with resistance early on at radio. When you got to go back in the studio and put a panning on Bring Me to Life, well, that's not a good sign, because radio stations are telling you no. So the record company makes you go back in and put a static sound so it sounds more modern rock, because they're saying that they don't want an operatic singer over a piano to start a song on modern rock radio. Now, we all know that changed when somebody finally tried the fucking song and it went giant. But early on, those are the types of things, and I'll tell you, man, there are other indicators too that scare the shit out of you. Like we were at a party at the first studio we worked on overdubs after drums, right? We went to this place called Mad Dog Studios, and Mad Dog Studios had a party one night just to try to get clientele, and they had invited a bunch of A&R guys and all kind of stuff. And there was 2 different guys that I already knew. One who signed Sugartooth, my old band, before I jumped out, Todd Sullivan, the guy that signed Weezer, and it was Tony Ferguson, the guy that signed No Doubt. These are 2 big boys, man. Trusted fucking A&R guys, right? Big time. I invited him in to listen to Bring Me to Life. Uh, First dude, Tony sat down and said, hey, who produced it? I really like the production. You produced it, Dave? I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, I don't like the song. He's an English guy. And didn't like the song. And then, but Todd sat down and he said, fucking, I'll never forget this, man. And it was me and my engineer too, my Pro Tools guy, Jeremy Parker. We're sitting there with a bunch and other friends of mine. And we're just like, what the fuck is happening right now? Because I liked it, of course, I'm fucking producing it. But Todd said, he goes, yeah, I really don't like the song, but I really don't like the singer. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, man? It's like I was in the Twilight Zone. So, point being that these things happen before you have a giant hit song sometimes. It's not like everybody just fucking knows it out of the box. You're going to have opinions. When you offer people a chance to give an opinion, they're going to have an opinion. It could have been completely different if they were in a different situation listening to it. Because a listener bias, which I'm probably going to do a reel on, is a fascinating thing, man. If you believe something, you're going to fucking hear it. If you go into somebody asks you, here, come listen to this song, tell me what's wrong with it. Well, the first thing you're going to do is find something wrong with it. So they just ask you to find something wrong with it. I call it the when bands could do the couch listen with their friends. You know how many albums have been killed by the couch listen? A shitload, dude. I had a client that could never release his fucking record because he kept playing it on the couch for all his buddies, and they always have an opinion. Like, I don't know, man, it didn't sound like, like people that aren't even like in the business or don't even do anything. They're not engineers, not producers, just friends with opinions. That shit can kill a fucking record, and it can kill confidence on the inside. Like for us, at least in that moment, I was like, damn, I literally thought when both of those A&R guys kind of shot it down, I was like, wow, I mean, am I nuts? I mean, this is like as bad as, like, is it like bad? Am I crazy? Like, I thought, I loved it. I obviously thought it was great. And I remember going home, played it in the studio for a bunch of people in my local studio. We had some friends in there. Nobody went fucking doing cartwheels over Bring Me to Life. Nobody, Sometimes it just has to be exercised into the general public before anybody knows anything. Now, when on my post that no one knew, I got two assistants that were there. Back where the hell were they? They were fucking I think it's Dean and Jason, I believe the names of them, but in Burbank Ocean when we were cutting it, at least one of them was like, oh, I knew it was going to be it. But the fact is, he might have thought, I don't know, maybe he thought that, but I don't remember anybody voicing that. And certainly me and Amy were joking around. Amy made the joke a few times that, oh, we're going to go gold, not platinum, like as a fucking joke. It's just something you don't know. You don't. You just try to do the best you can. You make something you love, I mean, shit, Rick Rubin tries to preach that to people. Don't try to go make a fucking hit. Just do something that you really feel strongly about and then let it happen. Let the process happen. And that's usually, he's right. That's usually what innovation really is. I mean, it's been done. Look, people can do it. I mean, there are writing teams and things in Nashville that happen all the time where they're trying to write a hit, and they do, because you have a multiple thing going on with this multiple writers. And then, but still, in every scenario, in every genre, there's always the surprise of something being a hit that nobody knew was coming. It's just one of those things, that I would assume that happens more than the planned hit. Like, okay, I'm going to write a hit and it's a hit, I've never seen that. It's always a fucking surprise.
We have a fan question from Jessica Williamson about the Fallen album. Her question is, the sound design and synths for the song Tourniquet are so spooky and cool. Can you tell us how those sounds were made? Yeah,
Tourniquet. I know that, Ben and Dave, man, had gone and gotten like a rad, it fails me. It's like the red sequencing keyboard box. They were like in the, I remember because I was sitting at the board, they would go and they're like in a vocal booth right there, all set up with all these fucking rad programming things. And they were doing a lot of that stuff. I think all of it actually on Fallen. Of course, we had like DJ Lethal on Open Door do it. But yeah, Ben and Dave were there just geeking out, man, and making cool loops. They would come in and we'd put them in Pro Tools and listen to it. And it was great. I'm pretty sure that's, I mean, some of it, there were pieces and things that came from the demos, right? Like the loop, Bring Me to Life loop came off of whatever they had before because we were still in the same tempo, just so we could use things if we wanted them. But I mean, I couldn't tell you 100%, but I'm pretty confident that they probably generated that. It's called a Nord. Damn it, it's every keyboard nerd knows it's called a Nord, not a Nordic, but a fucking Nord. I think it's a Nord. I think so. But yeah, that thing, it's red, and I know that I would see them in there geeking out, and Ben's I mean, both those guys are obviously, duh. I mean, you interviewed one of them, they're fucking insanely talented people. All three of those dudes, or kids, we'll call them kids at the time, were so talented. I mean, I mean, oddly enough, that fucking record was like the easiest record I ever made, just because it was just so conducive to what I was doing. We just all got along. The ideas worked. It was just easy to make. There wasn't a whole lot of turbulence. It was just fun, and it seems so effortless, especially comparing over the years to other records. There's some similar, but I don't think any of them were really as easy as that one. Oddly enough, and the success of it is crazy to this day. I'm just like, really? God, man, it's wild.
So I have some kind words sent in from the big boss man himself, Evanescence co-founder Ben Moody, and he sent in what might be the longest quote in podcast history. So I want you to sit back and just absorb this, okay? So from Ben, he says, "When I met Dave Fortman, it was under the pretense of putting into his care something more precious than anything in my life at that time. His abilities as a producer, especially at this point, go without saying. But his understanding as an artist and as a human being on how to navigate something as tumultuous as coming in to produce an Evanescence album before any proof of concept, any legitimacy to the vision had been established, is something that will always exceed most people's ability to comprehend. Everything I have in my life is based in some way or is in debt in some way to the success of that first Evanescence album, something that would, without Dave Fortman, not be possible. And on top of all of that, he's a ridiculous and hilarious and unmatched good hang. I've spent my entire career trying to strike the type of balance between professional ability, personal charisma that seems to exist within him effortlessly. He will never get the credit that he is due for just how close the Evanescence machine came to never existing at all, and how he alone championed it past the threshold to where it was something that no one could stop from happening. Evanescence is a force of nature. You had a ton of responsibility, and you showed a ton of mastery in the way that you wielded that responsibility. Also, he is one of the funniest fucking people alive and changed the way I look at toothbrushes and twos forever." So that's from Ben Moody.
Yeah, he remembers all the good times like I do. I mean, like I said, man, it was just probably, I've had some fun records. I don't know, but that was for sure the easiest one. And basically, everything Ben's saying is a lot of it is what I've told people in the past. When I showed up there, right, we're just similar people. Those guys were all, look, I grew up Southern Baptist. I went, I was in church till I was in like 12th grade. Now, so did all three of those guys, right? We're all from the South. We're all Southern Baptist. Me and Ben especially got along really well. We had the same kind of like similar sort of loves in life. He's full on great musician, fully into, he's a producer as well. So we're in the same kind of mindset. Plus he's also got the same kind of humor as I do. And so therefore there's tons of that going on, tons of laughter. And a lot of that is just nature. I think in any given situation, even outside of Evanescence, should I run into Ben even in a bar if we were just two people and if I was moved to Little Rock one time and back then and neither one of us were even in music, we'd probably get along really well. I would assume we'd be sitting there laughing our ass off and then suddenly be friends, even at the age difference we were. There are just certain people that get along. And then in our case, it was just game on, with all three of them. I mean, it was Hodges too. I mean, Hodges, they great people, man. They really are. And just super fucking talented. So when you get that combo, and all of that was very well put, what he said, and all of that combined with the music that they had written, it creates something very special, and I'm happy the world really grabbed onto it. It's wild. But yeah, that, I mean, and it's so, I mean, I'll be the fucking one to say it. I don't care, man. It's so much of that fucking record is Ben, man. It's straight up. That dude is the king of Fallen for sure. And his ability, man, he has a really good, strict ability of vision. Like, yeah, no, or yeah, it's he's one of the, he's a powerhouse basically. And whatever happened after that, that's a different world and shit happens. But I know in that moment in our lives, yeah, he was fucking the king, man, of just funny. I mean, I remember that was one time was so fucking rad. I kind of made me like laugh inside. I'm like, oh, I fucking love this guy. We had gone, it was when we were going to lay the guitar tracks down on Bring Me to Life. We're at Ocean Way. It's Ben starts like playing the part. I remember, like I do, I assume we were just going to try to get the whole fucking thing, and I ended up stopping him. So, all right, let's punch in here. He's like, he goes, huh? He goes, oh, I didn't come here to learn this fucking song, man. Let's just cut and paste. And I'm like, oh, fuck, okay, cool. And so he just like got a chord, which is what you should do. It's like, because there shouldn't be all this other stuff on there. It's like, not like you have to perform the guitar perfectly through the whole song. Doesn't make any fucking sense, especially not for that type of music with programming, and but that moment too, there was just some great stuff. There were what was it, the Grid Master, because Ben was really good at Pro Tools. It was also like I pulled the Squeal Police on him because he would be squealing on leads, which is rad. I let him have some squeals, but I would always tell him, no, Squeal Police, dude. Squeal Police are here. Too many squeals going on.
There's a squeal in My Immortal in the full band version.
Yeah, fucking right, dude. He's rad. Ben rules. That fucking, man, just all of it, man. Just the energy, the chord progressions, the simplicity. See, there is one of the hardest things to fucking do. Plus, the dude wrote My Immortal, for Christ's sake, when he was a baby when he wrote that fucking song. What a massive song. I think with the addition of maybe the bridge changing from Hodges, possibly, if I'm correct. But Ben wrote the fucking song. I mean, that's a massive song. The kid wrote it as a child, for Christ's sake. But also, one of the greatest beauties of an album like Fallen, right? Now, Amy takes a huge part of this based on her hooks and the lyrics that she wrote outside of My Immortal. I believe they're probably hers, I think, for the most part. I don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure the majority, obviously, the lyrics I think she wrote, like Bring Me to Life, I'm pretty sure she wrote all that shit. Well, the other part of what makes stuff so fucking good, and I try to preach this to people all the time, is that the foundations of what are there in a chord progression in a song are often, in the greatest songs known to mankind, very fucking simple. Bring Me to Life chorus, E G D E, E G D E. First E E E E E E E E, and then it goes down to C D, and look, it's not going all out of the box here. This is how simplicity and in Ben's tempo writing too, man. I mean, you get like some of the fucking grooves going on, like Imaginary. God, that's my favorite song on the record. That dude wrote a fucking masterpiece of a musical bed for Amy to write those beautiful lyrics on. I mean, it's just a fact, this isn't my fucking opinion. This is true. This is what it really is. If it's going to be said out there, that's what's going on, bro. That dude's badass, and he fucking knocked it out of the ballpark. And he's a funny son of a bitch. And I'm really happy he wrote all those nice things about me. That's great. I love him. He's rad.
I'm going to try to blast through some of the other incredible albums you've worked on before we wrap up here. So Mudvayne, you worked on Lost and Found in 2005, as well as two other albums. Lost and Found, this album went platinum. It's the band's best-selling album. It produced their only #1 hit with the song Happy. I own this album. I love it. if ever I need motivation, I play the song Determined. And if that doesn't get your blood going, you might need to check your pulse. But
Wait, yeah, okay, wait, hang on. You're gonna shit. When I finished that, speaking of Ben Moody, when I finished that fucking record, Ben wrecked his fucking Jeep, and I think he was listening to fucking Determined. He was listening to Mudvayne, and he was telling me, I think he called me or something, but he had wrecked his fucking Jeep. I was listening to your fucking album. It was so heavy or something. I forgot what he said. I mean, he wasn't so heavy. And he said something like he loved the album, right? He thought it was fucking great. And he ended up wrecking his Jeep. I think he said he was listening to fucking Determined. I don't know. I'd have to probably ask
that's
him,
how intense that song is. It gets the people going.
Yeah, yeah. So that I thought that was hilarious when he had told me that. But yeah, so continue. Yeah, so you like that? You like fucking Determined? It's a great song. I mean, it's just heavy as all fuck.
Yeah, that song's awesome. The musicianship in the band Mudvayne is incredible. Like world-class musicians.
Oh my god, no, it's unbelievably cool. What they do as a combo, in my opinion, man. God damn it, it's just some of the coolest. It's crazy because you can individually go through and as a musician myself and be like, oh my god, because I've seen them be built, like how the thing goes. Like Greg's got this badass riff.
The bass playing is so absurd,
funky fucking things on it, and he's doing that tapping thing with the octave that it's incredibly cool with his style, right? And then Matt will do the off time stuff, but somehow it's circling back and still has this funky thing to it, And so it is sort of what that band is, the foundation of like they have their own kind of like thing, like you would say about any other I guess it is. I don't know. Is it like prog rock? Or bands where they're respected for that ability to have that level of musicianship going, like a Tool or Rush or something. Well, Mudvayne's got that in the really heavy sense, and plus the melody lines, and the shit that Chad writes and some of the lyrics. I knew when I got Happy's fucking demo on that album, because I didn't know before they sent me the video. I mean, I'm sorry, the demos. I had only gone and seen whatever. Or listen to whatever they had prior to that. I just got on iTunes and was going through everything, and I'm like, wow, this is some great shit. And I knew them, of course, from Dig and Not Falling had come out, but I did an extensive listen. I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, ooh, I hope they send me, some stuff like this. And certainly, as soon as I got that fucking CD in the mail, I was like, oh shit! I heard Happy. I was like, oh fuck, here we go. I got something I can really milk. And fucking Determined was badass too. I heard that and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be cool. This is a great album. What a fun album. That was great. Those dudes are fucking rad. I love those guys.
Man, this would be a highlight on my resume for sure. 2008, Slipknot's All Hope Is Gone. It was Slipknot's first album to debut at #1, and then after that, 2 more Slipknot albums ended up going to #1. It has some of the band's most iconic songs like Psychosocial, Dead Memories, and Snuff. And we have a fan question, but this is different because the fan question is the former frontman for a multi-platinum band. He had a question about Slipknot here. So this is from Brian Byrne, who was the frontman for the multi-platinum Canadian band I Mother Earth, who is iconic here in Canada. And Brian says this. He says, what a force Dave is. He did such an enormous, almost unthinkable job on Slipknot's All Hope Is Gone album. But he did it, and he did it at the highest level. That's my favorite Slipknot album. I've seen them 6 times in concert, and my kids are fans as well. My question is, how did you connect with Slipknot to produce the album? I get the degrees of separation are few, but that was a juggernaut to take on. So how did you end up as the producer on that album?
Oh, wow. These things keep parlaying from the thing before. You know what got that record was the fucking Mudvayne album. It was Joey really liked Lost and Found. The only person I talked to was Joey early on, later it had one phone call with Clown or Sean because he was kind of just talking about creative stuff and just wanted to make sure I understood that. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Short conversation, but the big thing was that Joey essentially made the decision. I mean, he called me and he's like, man, I love the sound, the drum sounds you got on Lost and Found for Mudvayne. So then that became his thing, and it was Fucking Determined and Happy and all the songs we were just talking about were the main reason. And he, believe it or not, I didn't know this, that he and Corey both were Ugly Kid fans. And I kept getting, me and Joey started getting like in the text game and kind of became friends over the phone before the album started. And he had texted me and he was, and I was like, wait, what the fuck does that mean? And he said, track 4 ALW. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is motherfucker. Like, what is he joking? Like, making fun of Ugly Kids? What is he doing right here? And I'm like, so I think I sent like a question mark. He's like, yeah, dude, Panhandle and Prince, man, my favorite song on the album. I'm like, holy shit, this dude knows America's Least Wanted, the Ugly Kid record. So it turns out that age group as well. They're 5 or 6 years younger than I am. So that could have, in some ways, been sort of a good connection as well to why I got that record. He was also an Ugly Kid fan because he's one of the most knowledgeable people I have ever or had ever met. Rest in peace, rad dude. But he is so knowledgeable in the world of metal and music. I mean, it's just a well-studied dude, man. I mean, it's incredible the amount of knowledge that Joey had and his ability to write. But that the main factor for that question, yeah, is that I got a call from Joey, basically, and actually was in Montreal producing Simple Plan when I got that call. I remember I was sitting out and eating a poutine of all fucking things at one of these Dezos. Well, you know what a Dezo is? Yeah, I was sitting out in the parking lot of a Dezo and I got that phone call. And it was wild, man. That was about it. And I just went out there and started doing what I had to do. It was a lot of drama between camps going on, but I navigated through it somehow. And it became really an important record for the band, in my certainly opinion, and certainly the numbers show the same thing as well. And wow, what a cool thing for that dude to say. That's great. What's the name of that? I want to check his band out. What is?
So the band's called I Mother Earth, and
Yeah, okay.
yeah, they put out 4 albums, and one's gold, one's platinum, one's double platinum in Canada.
Oh,
So
shit. Okay.
they're iconic. They're an iconic band here in Canada, and they're still touring. They're still playing amazing shows. And I just interviewed him not too long ago, and he was saying when this interview was coming up, when I mentioned the bands you had worked with, as soon as he saw that Slipknot album, he had some good things to say about it. And he had a question. He wanted to know that connection.
That's so cool. Wow. Yeah, I'd love to study all sorts of music, and certainly I want to go check out I Mother Earth. Canadians, man, that's cool. Yeah.
Canadian band. So the final band I want to touch on before we wrap up is Godsmack, because you've worked on 3 Godsmack albums, and we keep talking about connections. Is it the Shannon Larkin connection that gets you in with Godsmack, or is that just an assumption?
Honestly, I didn't really know from when I got the call to go. I went to Houston to go meet up with them, and talk about it. And I didn't know. I thought that it was just purely Shannon connecting me with Sully, but it turns out, because I never really asked Sully, honestly, what it was or why. We just kind of met and hit it off really well, and we've been good friends ever since. But I saw Shannon on some, maybe it was one of his streams or something, and he was saying that Sully had actually come to him and mentioned me, and I was like, oh fuck, okay, because it was it was in a time when I was hitting really hard. I had just done fucking Slipknot. They came out #1, which is then coming off of Mudvayne, Evanescence, so on and so on. So I was kind of in that ramp all of a sudden. So I think it was either one or the other one, but it certainly had a lot to do with Shannon for sure. Because I mean, once the idea was out there, then Shannon was like, well, yeah, fucking hell, I was in a band with Dave. He's talented, Shannon's, man. I mean, Shannon has been, I mean, one of my, probably, Jesus, early on, the biggest supporter I ever had on my end of like producing and mixing. He's always just loved my mixes, and he's really had my back from like demo days, man. Shannon has, because I did stuff for the motherfucking Pitbulls. Green Eyed Lady times and all that. It was a bunch of stuff, but yeah, he's 100% around. I love Shannon, and he's always been there for me. He's a huge supporter of mine early on before anything had ever happened. So, yeah, I would say he had no matter what, had a lot to do with it. Just on Shannon's influence on the idea, probably, even if it was Sully that had the idea, that I'm more than certain Shannon had tons of influence on it. Absolutely, of me getting that job.
I saw Godsmack open for Metallica probably 20 years ago now. And it was so cool because Sully's a drummer as well. You might have connected with him as a drummer. And at the show, Godsmack has a double drum setup so that they have two drummers that play at different points, which is pretty cool.
Hell yeah. Man, you should get that. You can see it on film. You look, or whatever video. I don't know if it's on YouTube, the drum battle, but you could probably find it. I don't know if the whole thing's out on YouTube or not, but the DVD, you can see it, the Blu-ray that I mixed for them, 2024, and the drum battle is like one of the coolest fucking things ever, especially on the video, because you can see it all. Like it's badass, man. That's really just an unbelievable moment. I saw, that's a great story. Back when I'd first gotten back to Louisiana, I think it was like 2000. It was early. It was a Straight Outta Line tour, I believe. And so Shannon had come to Lafayette. They were going to play the fucking arena, Cowdome or whatever they call it. I don't think it's called a Cowdome. That's somewhere else. But so for the first time in my life, man, I'd never seen Shannon whacking at the drums on a major arena PA packed with fucking 15,000 people, man. It fucking blew me away, dude. I was like, holy fuck, because it sounded so huge and it was Shannon. Yeah, I'm just hearing these big old fucking drums for the first time ever, and it was the dog, man. I'm like, damn, man. And I just had never been in that. I've been on stage with him. We played all kinds of big shows. Never like that, where I was in the audience and getting the full impact of it. And we were like in the floor part back some, where you hear it like you're sitting in front of a home stereo, and it was incredible. I was like, damn. And then they fucking did the drum solo, and I was like, whoa. Yeah, that is what a moment. He's a powerhouse, dude. Fucking the dog is the bomb. Still, man, dude, just relentless. But
I have the final fan question that's been sent in. This is from Karen Vastmans. The question is, are there any bands or singers that you would love to produce for if you get the opportunity? So do you have a Mount Rushmore? Do you have a Mount Rushmore? Yeah, do you have a wish list?
Yeah, it's not something I really think about, honestly, but it's like this, like I tell every podcast, just like, I think every producer in the world would want to do like iconic bands like Metallica or something like that, not that that'll ever fucking happen. But if you have to name them off, certainly, who wouldn't want to do the obvious ones? But other than that, like, I don't know. I'm really happy with what I've done, honestly, in my life. And I like to do other stuff. We have the new Down record come in. It was a pleasure to mix. Those guys are great. We do a Godsmack Mohegan Sun's out. I'm older now. I'm more settled. And I really do prefer, I just, because it's so, you can mix from a distance now so easily. And I'm not even a popular mixer by any means. It never was really my forte. I'm known for producing. Definitely not known as a mixer, even though I did mix a lot of these records that I've done. Yeah, I've never had a running thing where I was being hired as a mixer, but there's enough projects through each year where I work still, because I tried the whole I thought I was, I came to Florida thinking like, I'm at the age now, things are slowing down a bit. I'm just going to go chill. I'm going to fucking live life, and then that didn't work out. I just started drinking beer and, and even then, even drinking beer, there's a certain thing about humans, man. Maybe not all of them, but me, I'm just that guy. I gotta be doing I gotta be working, man, or doing something. I have to be crafting something, whether it's music or not. I need to be doing something. If I have idle hands, I drive myself fucking nuts. And it certainly led to just over drinking and bad health suddenly hit me, and which led to this now 2.5 year sobriety, which I'm stoked about. God, never felt better, man.
That reminds me of a quote that said, The devil will find you in the open spaces on your calendar.
Man, fuck yeah.
That's
You
intense.
know, and social media is my newest explosion where it's the most difficult thing I've ever done, for sure. Much harder than anything I've ever tried to approach, but also gives me a sense now that I'm going to be 60 years old here in a year that there's something really important to work on. And it's hard because I can't find another multi-platinum producer that's making fucking comedy reels on Instagram. I looked, at least not in the rock world. No, none of them I know are going for it, So at least I'm doing something that so far I can't find a whole lot of other people doing in my, especially not my peer group of producers. They're doing the same types of albums and things, or the documentary style reels I do, or getting the numbers I'm getting on social media. So there's something that was surprising to me. And so I feel it's valuable up against work I'm going to do for various projects, mixing, and even one, I think we're still going to go for it. Some all-star guys, a couple actually pretty good names. I won't mention it because it's not set in stone who exactly is going to play them, but they're probably going to come down. We're going to hit a studio here locally, so I'll do the full production on that. But in between these things, then it gives me a full schedule. I guess I've got it. I'm up early, I'm working out, and it's straight to scripting or making a reel or trying to continue and trying to play that game. And it's hard as fuck, but fun as hell and rewarding when you see 2,800 people share a room share a reel that you made about shrooms. That means they're all laughing or telling their friends about it. So
We've
you gotta love
made it to the final few questions. When you look
All
back
right.
on your life and your career, what are you most proud of?
Oh man, well, I'm proud that I'm one of the very few uh, people that went platinum as an artist and then crossed over, also went platinum as a producer. Not a whole lot of those. There's a number, but not like by any means, not a lot, especially not in the rock world. Uh, that's a big one. And of course, I'm proud of the accomplishments. I always wanted to be in a band. I always wanted to go on tour. I always wanted to play in an arena. So I did that. Uh, Producing the amount of stuff I did and the success of the records, probably number one in my life would be that I was able to help make music that'll for the moment be around for a very long time, in multiple records. Uh, All Hope Is Gone just keeps clicking away. Bring Me to Life. And I mean, Fallen. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I don't know when that's ever going to go away. It's certainly not anytime soon. So, yeah, I'm probably most proud, uh, most happy, but well, I mean, every father is. I mean, obviously, having kids is the greatest thing that ever fucking happened to anybody. Uh, if you're like I am and you want to be a dad and all that. But as far as career wise, yeah, I'd probably say that there has been no better feeling than when we were hitting the peak of Bring Me to Life, and it hit me that this is really happening, and I would like park the car and listen on the radio. I'm like, wow. I'd say that's probably the pinnacle for me. So I'm most proud of that, probably.
And now, when you look back at your life and career, what are you most grateful for?
I'm most grateful for the luck shots, where there's just been a few key people that if it's chance meetings and weird shit that'll happen in my life of people, and if those chance meetings never happen, then it's just not really going to happen. Yeah, some of those things are just weird. You're like, God, if this dude, one of them was the like same guy I told you about, Tim Garoose, who had moved to California before I did. Well, the same guy that had led me into Sugartooth, right, which led me into Ugly Kid Joe. Years later, he's walking in Hollywood, and I'm already back home in a local studio back at Balance, even way before 12 Stones. This is even before the NOLA scene had come along, right? Or right around the same time. And he's walking around the corner from like a bank or something. He runs dead into my old manager, Dennis Ryder for Ugly Kid Joe. So Dennis Gass, and I talked to, and Tim had been down to record with me before in Louisiana. So Dennis asked him what I'd been doing. Hey, what's up with Dave? Have you seen him? And he said, yeah, he's been recording in Louisiana. I said, no way. So then Dennis gets in touch with me and starts talking. He says, I'm managing Jay Baumgartner. I'm managing producers now. I'd love to hear what you're doing. So I sent him a couple of things I worked on, one called Fall from Eden, which is a punk band. That then sparked the interest of Jay Baumgartner and Dennis wanting to get me involved into a co-production, which became 12 Stones because they ended up getting a record deal. And so twice that guy was the key thing. He was the thing that in the very moment that he doesn't happen, I think either one of those times I don't go to Ugly's Joe, and I probably don't, go to Dennis and even have a shot at 12 Stones co-production. Now there could be another reality similar, but those things actually happened, and it's wild that can be such a key little thing can happen, and the outcome when you look at it gets a little scary. You're like, damn, man, everything's fragile, so I'm just thankful that any of those things ever happen. I'm most grateful just that, all my kids are good right now, and you just got to keep surfing it. You got to roll through it and just do the best you can, man. That's it. And I'm glad that I was able to get sober, get my health back in order. I'm definitely, I have a lot of shit I'm grateful for, and more than ever now that I'm sober and I can see things a little more clearly than when I was fogged up real hard.
In the different multiverses, there's all these other lives you could have lived had you not met that guy twice.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, it's something that I think about a lot. I'm just like, wow, it's crazy. What are the odds, in those key moments?
Final two questions. If you could sit down next to your 10-year-old self and you could whisper words of advice, taking everything you've learned since 10 years old, the mentorships, the lessons, the experiences, ups and downs, successes and failures, what do you whisper to cute little Dave sitting there to help guide him through this human experience?
Oh, well, it's the one lesson that everyone only learns by, but I don't think a kid would understand it if I told him. It's the fact that, like, it's as you get older, it's the same lesson that the overreactions emotionally to things that aren't really that important. Everybody learns that later, and you get better at it as you get older. But if you could tell I always wondered if I could tell your younger self that early on, would you be able to face certain situations in life that are, that are going to show up anyway, or is that situation what's creating a better you? That's the problem. Not a whole lot, I would say, honestly, to a 10-year-old me, because I don't think I would listen because I wouldn't listen. I'm that guy, man. I was wanted to play music, man. I was driven as a kid. That was number one. Skating, skateboarding was probably, obviously, duh. It's the only really two things I did. A little bit of outside of BMX bike and stuff like that. I was all music. I spent hours and hours and hours and hours a day coming home right away playing guitar, getting off the bus playing trumpet and piano and shit all night. Just how we grew up, So I don't know. I probably would just be like, all right, let him go. He's not. I would look at me and go like, he's not gonna fucking listen. This kid ain't gonna listen to me. I could be like, oh, like, be better or whatever, Or if I know, what I'd tell him, I'd say, fucking, be more strict. Like, every dad needs to be more strict with their kids, But my kids turn out great, But for a while, there's a point in time in when you're raising children where you go to yourself, because it's like when they're like, not, it's like terrible twos happens, and then there's like when they're like 13, then there's these moments where you're like, God, you always say to yourself, if I'd have just been more strict, then I wouldn't have to go through the hell I'm in right now arguing with this kid, right? And it's probably true, because I look at other really strict parents that were friends of mine, and their kids kids are always in line. They're just like that. But the fact is, it blows over, because and the beauty of it is that the kids change. But it might be something that I would try to explain to a younger me, but not a 10-year-old. I think I'd probably, I would tell the brand new dad, if I could go back now, I'd be like, hey, here's what you need to do. Here's how to avoid all this bullshit that's about to happen. That's beautiful bullshit. any part of raising kids is beautiful. Even the hardest parts, in retrospect, are fucking rad. But that'd be the one thing I would tell myself. It'd be 30-year-old me, and I'd be like, all right, dude, here, it's coming. These are gonna be the humps. There's gonna be peaks and valleys, and here's what you need to do to navigate out of it. And that guy probably would listen. I think I would be like, oh shit, okay.
He'd be open to suggestions at that point.
Yeah, because you're diving in, man, when you're a new dad. Like I was 30, and so I'm coming off touring and shit, and I was in a band, and now I'm gonna be a dad. So you're into the great wide open or the great unknown. You don't know what the fuck is gonna happen. All you know is you really love this baby so much, you do anything, you die for, but you don't know what the hell you don't have an experience. I mean, that's how we all are. You jump in, you just go. And I may or may not have listened, but that'd be the guy I'd go for. That dude, if I could go back up, I'd go right to that dude about a month after Aaron was born. I'd be like, all right, I got all this shit. I'm gonna tell you how to be fucking at least a little more strict to get through the early years.
Final question. Is there anything you'd like to say to the fans that have supported you for decades now through your music career and then through your career as a producer?
Yeah, God, thank you. Especially the, Ugly Kid Joe fans matter so much in the second leg of what we're doing. When a band's big, like in 92, when we were hitting, it's huge. It matters, obviously, fan support. So you do all the same things, but it's when in the age of social media and later in life, and we're older and we're trying to make music, having them support us. And a lot of them are the ones that were people asking the questions on here. And I can't thank them enough, because a lot of them help me and support me in the social media thing, like I was explaining. That, and of course the fan bases on the other stuff I've done are massively important. Those are more band kind of fans that they're not probably. I would say the large majority of people that buy Fall don't know who produced it. But for me personally, it would have to come down to the Ugly Kid Joe fan base, and especially the since 2012 fan base has been key. Without that, I mean, we're dead in the water, pretty much. So yeah, we owe it all to them. So I definitely am in contact with a bunch of them. I like being on social media because I can now become a part of those people's lives. I know a lot of them appreciate it, and I appreciate them, and they're great. Everybody, they're so cool. I've enjoyed. It's almost like a meet and greet. I get to have a meet and greet like online with fans, and it's really cool. And so I'm hoping just get the bands gets a little more prolific at social media, and so they can experience some of the other guys as well. If not, no big deal.
As we wrap up here, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you for your lifelong pursuit of mastery as a guitarist, as a singer-songwriter, as a producer. I want to commend you for having a big vision for your life, for setting these goals and working towards them on a daily basis.
Oh, thanks.
You've shown the rest of us what's truly possible if we also commit to working towards achieving our dreams. I want to thank you for putting out great music that's become the soundtrack to the lives of millions of people from around the world. I own probably half of the albums you've worked on as a producer, which shows the output that you've had and the incredible music that's come out. And last but not least, I want to thank you for this interview, sitting down with me for the last 2+ hours, answering all my ridiculous questions. So Dave, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, dude. Been rad. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, you're very welcome. So to the Dave Fortman fans, the Ugly Kid Joe fans, the podcast fans, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Who would you like me to feature next for a 2-hour deep dive interview? You can let me know in the comments. You can also send me an email at joelmartinmastery@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on all social media platforms at joelmartinmastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.